Three, two, one.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Franchise Deep Dive with Jake and Josh, the podcast where two mudbloods dissect, discuss, and break down all of your favorite and least favorite movie franchises. I'm Jake.
And I'm Josh, and how dare you use that terminology, Jake? That is insensitive if you knew anything about this wizarding world.
Sometimes when I think about Chamber of Secrets, I think about this YouTuber I watched. His name is Cosmonaut Variety Hour, and he made a whole review of the entire Harry Potter series. And when he starts out with the second one, he starts talking about that word. And he says, you know what? When I was watching the first Harry Potter movie, I said, this is pretty good, but you know what this world needs a little bit more of? Racism.
How come it's never like once explored or mentioned in the first, and it's immediately like just like
They never say that word, but when you first are introduced to Malfoy in the first one, they do have the scene where, or the line of dialogue where he says, you'll find out soon that some wizarding families are better than others. So there's that, but it reads as more like snobby and less racist until the second one comes around. But we'll
yeah,
get
this
into
one's
all
full
that.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. So Josh, what are we discussing on this episode?
We are discussing the two films, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosophers, depending where you're from, and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Double feature today.
Damn right, guys. So we're breaking away from the last two episodes where we talked about like 3 and then 4 movies, simplifying it a little bit, going back to just doing 2 movies this episode, which gives us a little bit more room to breathe and talk about them more in depth. But yeah, we decided to break up the 8 Harry Potter films into 3 parts, and we figured starting out with the first one, doing 1 and 2 would work well, since the first 2 are the only 2 directed by Christopher Columbus, and they definitely, and we'll get into it, have like a very similar look and feel and vibe and a lot of similar tonal consistencies. But yeah, so that's why we thought wrapping these 2 up in a package would be nice. But before we get into starting to talk about Sorcerer's Stone, I just wanted to ask you, since this is easily the largest franchise that we're tackling thus far, what your experience and what your history with Harry Potter is.
Let me tell you, I feel pretty left out as a kid. I started reading these books as a kid, and really, I say books, and I just mean the first one. Never finished it. It was just, I wasn't that big of a reader as a kid, so I just watched the movies. And even then, I feel like, I guess they were coming out, like, as I was, like, third one came out, 2004? 2003?
The third movie?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like how old I was when the movies came out.
It's either 03 or 04. I want to say 04, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I remember kind of like a little halt after 4. I didn't really watch the 5th, or I did watch the 5th one around when it came out, but I never saw it in theaters. Actually, I didn't see any of these in theaters. None of them.
Not a single Harry Potter
except
film?
for the last one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Isn't
Wow.
that's crazy?
That's sad for you.
I know.
That's unfortunate, yeah.
So, but always enjoyed them. Like I loved the second one. I think was my favorite for a long time as a kid. For some reason, I didn't remember the third one much until I got older, and I didn't remember the 5th one that much. And then the 6th one, I was, that came out, I think, in 2009. So, I was around high school when I saw that then, which I was kind of like more matured a little bit from as a kid. But yeah, I would say I really got into these films that in depth until I got older, though. Like, as a kid, it was kind of just like 1, 2, didn't remember. I saw 3 like once, and I never saw it again until I was like an adult. And I remembered 4 just because of the games and shit.
I had that game for the GameCube.
No, I just meant the Wizard Tournament. like the games they play in the movie. I just remember that being like the
no, they had the tie-in games. I had the fourth one
actually,
on GameCube. It was a blast.
I remember I played the first one fully, the first Harry Potter game on I think that was PlayStation 1.
I think so. That game's
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing when I played it, but yeah, I kind of want to play it again just to see how it is. And the second one, I never finished it. Just never finished it. I played on PlayStation 2 and have no idea how it goes.
I played the second one a lot as a kid on the PS2 as well. Like I think I don't even think I owned it. I think my friend had it. So anytime I went over to his house, it's like that's all I wanted to do was play Chamber of Secrets on the PS2.
How was that one compared to the first?
Probably a better game. I mean,
Yeah.
You're a whole generation ahead. Like I think you could probably go back to the PS2 Chamber of Secrets game and probably have fun with it. I think if you tried to play the first one, like the PS1 game, you'd probably just like want to bang your head against a wall.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's my assessment of that. But yeah, so you really didn't. You had a little bit of experience with them as a kid, but you really got invested once you got a little bit older.
yeah, like I said, it was really just 1 and 2 that I really watched all the time as a kid.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you recently reread the books, right? Like you went through all the books, or you are going through the books?
Yeah, I read them. It was a few years ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like 3 years ago, I read them in what was it, 2021. Yeah, it's the first time I read them. First time.
Okay. Yeah.
And yes, very much enjoyed them. I think you read them a few times, and I think you've had a little up and down relationship with the books, even, right?
No, I've read them once.
Oh,
I mean, I guess if you don't mind, I guess I'll just go into my history with Harry Potter because I guess I'm on the
go for it.
opposite. I'm on the opposite end of Josh. Harry Potter was like, if Star Wars as a kid was 1A, Harry Potter was 1B. I was equally as in love, equally as invested in Harry Potter as I was, Star Wars. And as a kid, like especially if you like get exposed to Harry Potter at a young age, I don't know, it just really gets you. I think the main character being an 11-year-old boy and just being exposed to this world of magic is just about the coolest thing as a kid. And yeah, I read the books. As far as my parents tell the story, they remember me reading the first book as early as first grade. I remember reading through all the books. I remember finishing Goblet of Fire in fourth grade, and then I distinctly remember, and it's one of still the best days of my life, so shout out to my mom, but she came home with the hardcover of Deathly Hallows, and like I can just picture all of the covers of all the books just in my head so vividly, and the colors and the art design and everything, and just coming home. And the seventh book, Deathly Hallows, has kind of like an orange colored palette to the cover, and it was glorious. And obviously I cracked it open and started reading it, and it's the one I have the most memory reading, obviously because I was probably the oldest when I read it, but just it was the first time that I had finished something in my life and felt really empty. Like I finished reading the last book, and you read the last couple words, and I was like, well, what the fuck's next? Like, what am I supposed to do now? Because I was just that invested in the world and the characters. But on the opposite side of the books, I loved the movies. I had Sorcerer's Stone on VHS. I remember just watching that like over and over and over again. Right before we started filming or recording, I had pointed out to Josh how I still have my Chamber of Secrets DVD, to which I just discovered I don't actually have the disc. I only have the special features, but
that's crazy. That's so irresponsible.
It is, but I don't know. I've had that DVD for a long ass time. That thing has seen a lot of wear and tear.
Question for you: were you like one of the kids that just like when you got the DVD out, would you not put it away like immediately after you were done?
No, I was really bad with it. I'd set it like on top of the DVD
Oh
player.
God.
I know. I was a bad kid when it came to that. I was always really bad at like maintaining my games. They were always like scratched and
Oh my God, so many of my friends, their video games, it would just be all over, or they would always be in different game cases.
Yeah.
And I was like, it would drive me nuts.
No, it was lunacy. But yeah, no, I obviously I watched these movies as they came out. Again, another core memory is I remember my dad coming home with Prisoner of Azkaban, and he's like, listen, it's not, and this is years back, so, but he was like, listen, it's not going to look the way it normally looks. And I was a kid, and I was like, well, what do you mean? It was like an illegal copy. So someone had had taken a camera in the theater and recorded the movie and then got it on a DVD disc. And I guess my dad got it somehow. So it was really bad, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just watched these movies as they released. I loved them. Obviously, going into Deathly Hallows Part 2, like the big climax of the series. I mean, I knew what happened since I had read the book, but being a little bit older and just, I always loved these movies. I have soured on them a little bit in recent years, and I know that is to the dismay of Josh, because I know he very much still loves these movies, and I still do enjoy them. I don't think I dislike any of them. I don't think any of them are poorly made or poorly constructed films. I just think maybe it's a combination of maybe me tiring them out and kind of those films having run their course. Because I used to get like a really special magical feel when I knew that I was going to start a Harry Potter movie, and I just don't get that anymore. So maybe I just watched them too much.
Yeah, it sucks for you. Yeah,
it's okay. It's all right. I have it with other films, and it's unfortunate though, because Star Wars and Harry Potter were like my 1 and 2 as a kid, and now neither of them really do it for me. But it's okay. But yeah, I don't want to say soured on them in the way that I think any of these are bad or terrible or I'm gonna shit on them. I do have my issues, and we'll get into it in a moment, but overall, I think it's a fun franchise. I think it's one of the more consistent franchises out there. The fact that it was able to put out 8 films and they're all at least watchable and usually pretty fun and competent is pretty impressive. The whole point of this podcast is to explore franchises, and inherently a lot of the franchises kind of suffer and they go downhill, and it's a spiral, and some are good and some are bad, but this one, I think, pretty consistent quality-wise, and some I like more than others, but overall, it's a good franchise, and I'm excited to break into these movies.
Yeah.
So.
And I just want to add, I do think it is impressive having, like, I know there's, like, the same directors for some films, but still having, like, different crew members and directors and keeping it consistently well done, in my eyes, well done. Like, there isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. There's what, 4 directors over the course of the 8 films. Columbus, Alfonso Cuarón, Mike Newell, and David Yates. And what's cool is they all do bring like a very different style, both visually, tonally, and aesthetically. And still to have the movies not exactly be consistent, like visually, and them all still work in tandem with each other, pretty impressive. But yeah, what do you say we break into the first film, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone?
I'm ready.
All right, guys. So in case you've been living under a rock and don't know anything about the story of Harry Potter, we'll give you a little brief summary, but basically Harry is an 11-year-old kid who is living with his aunt and uncle because when he was a baby, his parents died. And Harry lives with them, like I said, till about he's 11 years old, until he is told that he is a wizard and will be attending Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And that's where the first film kind of sets off. He goes to the school, and that's pretty much what most of these films and books are. It's Harry going on adventures, trying to solve mysteries in the school, all while this sort of looming evil threat from his past and a very notable figure in the wizarding world is sort of lurking in the background. And it's just sort of about him dealing with that sort of stuff. Also, it kind of serves as a coming of age story as you see the characters and Harry, Ron, and Hermione as they progress in age and go through different trials and tribulations. But so what do you think about Sorcerer's Stone, Josh?
Overall, I mean, hey, you know, I like all these films. This one still, I think for a lot of people holds a special spot just because it kind of it's the initial entrance into this world. Really has a nice like magical feel with the soundtrack and mood. I mean, the first scene I think is really good, which I think the first scene in the book, right, is the Dursleys. You kind of get like a little which I think this was a better choice to kind of set you up kind of at Privet Drive, where he delivers Harry Potter. Yeah, I really enjoy this film overall. I have my issues with it. Just and it's like a natural thing. It's kind of like not to the fault of the actors. They're kids, so they're kind of just getting started. But I don't know. It's interesting to see them grow as they get older. I don't know if some people think Emma Watson is actually better when she's younger than when she gets older. I've seen some people say that. Don't know how you feel about that, if you've heard that or agree with that.
I don't think that Emma Watson is a very good actress.
Do you
in
think she's
general.
better as a kid than when she gets older?
That's kind of a tough thing to answer. I don't know, because I don't really think she's very good outside of the Harry Potter films. Now, to her credit, I have not seen. She's in Little Women, correct?
I think so, yeah.
I have not seen Little Women yet. It's been on my watch list for a little bit. I just need to find like a Sunday where I have free time and really knock it out, because I do want to check it out. I just have never been that impressed with Emma Watson, and it's really. I can acknowledge bad performances, but maybe again it's because I've seen these movies so many times that she works just fine for me in the Harry Potter movies, because I just associate the character of Hermione with her. And it's not an amazing performance. I do think she has her moments, and I do think they go a little overboard in the first film with trying to make her the annoying know-it-all character. And
Yeah.
it works because she is annoying, and I want to feel bad for her when she overhears Ron making fun of her, but
No, I just don't.
I don't either, because she, like, we talked about it in our last episode where we covered Halloween Town. Dylan is basically Hermione. Like, they're the exact same character. They're the annoying, smart, know-it-all. Luckily, this is the only film where they do that. I think they severely bring that tone down in the second film and progressively as the friendship gets closer and closer between the main three.
Yeah.
But yeah, to answer your question, I don't think Emma Watson is a wonderful actress. She seems like a very lovely person. I like her in the Harry Potter movies, and she does get better. The biggest issue with all of the kids in the first two movies is they feel a little stiff. Not that they're giving bad performances. I just think it's a very grand production. And when you're put up against, like, Richard Harris
Yeah.
and
The
Alan Rickman, it's tough.
Yeah, the
know?
highlight of the first one, and I mean, really, majority of these films are the professors.
Yeah.
They're all great. Everyone loves Snape, but I really love McGonagall. Just like in like all of these, I was so like scared of her, but still like comforted by her, and like just like the flip of a dime. I think she's delightful to watch.
She has such a commanding
Yeah.
presence in like every scene she's in, right from the first time you see her.
Yeah, and when she does like crack a smile or like you see like a hint of joy, it's such a like breath of fresh air. You're like, oh, okay, she can be really sweet, but she's so intense when she's like firm. It's
Yeah, no, like you said, she's scary but also sweet. Like, I love the scene when Harry is gifted the Nimbus 2000. He's gifted the broom right before his first Quidditch match, and he's like, I never get mail. And he looks around and he notices McGonagall at the table, and she kind of just like gives him a little look.
yeah.
Like,
Well, first off,
see what I did there?
I fucking hate that part. Like, and I'll get into that. Yeah, no, I hate that part. I'm so.
Do you hate how the Gryffindors are just
It's insane.
the golden boys of
Fucking
the school?
insane. Like, it's enough. And not even just Gryffindors, but just Harry Potter, man. Like, the favoritism this kid gets is insane. Who the hell is approving? I get he doesn't have a broom. Why'd he make the fucking team? If you don't have a broom, don't make the team. Like, it's automatic.
Well, I think they have like generic
Yes.
brooms.
So
for
give
the kids.
give him one. Why is he deserving of the newest broom? How'd she get it? Did she just like conjure it up? Like,
Did you watch the beginning of the movie like I did? He had a pretty terrible
I
fucking
don't
life
care.
for the last
I don't
11
give
years.
a fuck.
Oh no.
No, listen. It does not. That doesn't mean he gets special treatment in this school where there's every other student around him. That is not okay. That shit does annoy me in this, but like playfully. All right, it's.
To be fair, He does. All right, they go back and forth in this movie between shitting on Harry and then giving Harry a ton of praise. One of the scenes that has always stuck out to me as a kid, and again, I have to credit Cosmonaut Variety Hour again. He's a really great YouTube channel, guys, if you like movie and TV related content. But he rewatched the entire Sorcerer's Stone. Would you believe me if I told you that Harry does not cast a single spell in this movie?
You know, I saw another video that talked about that, and I was like, wait, what? And
He does not.
that's insane.
Think about it.
That
He just rides a broom. He doesn't do any magic.
and then Hermione just like says you're a great wizard.
That's okay. Well, that's what I was gonna bring up, the Hermione scene, because she's like, I mean, I get it. She's trying to like give him a little pep talk, but I wouldn't necessarily say now Harry will become a great wizard, but he is not a great wizard as of right now. He has not done anything, and if anything,
Does he really not
pretty
cast
bad wizard.
one? Like nothing?
no, he does in the second movie,
Yeah.
but not in the first one. Not in the first one.
Wow. That's. I wonder why. Because he does in the book, right? Like, did I miss something in the book? Or
You've read them a lot sooner, a lot more recently than I
don't
have.
remember. But let's kind of go back to the beginning because I want to try to tackle some of these points, just like little things I have notes of. Hagrid kind of rescues Harry. Let's just start from there when he keeps getting the mail, the acceptance letters, and they keep trying to like hide them and like keep him from it. And is this
I like that.
is this
sequence.
like a is this like a
It's fun.
is this a timeshare that they go to? What is this place they go to? It's in the middle of the ocean.
Oh my! I don't.
What the
know.
hell is that? How do they get there? It's
It's like a lighthouse.
yeah, it's a fucking lighthouse. Is this like? Is this for rent? Is this like a? I don't know.
You could probably rent a lighthouse out and live there. I don't know.
I mean, this guy like
It's a cool
Vernon
set.
had this place scouted out already. He already knew where they were going when he said we're going away where they can't find us. This guy knew about this place. He's been there before probably. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's just that that's
Well,
like
I'm glad you brought up the Dursleys because I never really appreciated them probably until this time around.
okay.
They're really good. Like I think her name's Fiona Shaw plays Petunia, and I don't know the actor's name who plays Vernon, but they are so cartoonishly despicable, and I love it because one thing I think this film has always done really well, and sometimes it can be a little too much, but I think overall they handle it pretty well, is they make you feel so bad for Harry and his living situation, and a part of that is the performances by those two actors because again, Petunia and Vernon are just the most like they threaten to starve him, or is that the second one?
No, that's the first one.
Oh, right.
You won't have any meals for a week.
Yeah, dude, he lives under the fucking stairs. And hold on. Well, okay, I do want to. We went right into this movie. We jumped in head first, and
Yeah.
it works with our sort of logo. But so this film, right, 2001, directed by Christopher Columbus, has $125 million budget, made over $1 billion at the global box office, which is insane for 2001. And at the time was the second highest grossing film of all time. So super impressive, really, really cool for them. I forgot. I just wanted to kind of to set that foundation up with like how much money this had. But I think everything in this movie from like a set perspective looks incredible.
Agreed.
For 2001, and it's something that I think frustrates me a little bit more in some of the later Harry Potter films, but because they kind of lean away from the practical effects and lean more into CGI, which is, I guess, natural with the time. But man, something that is so fun about returning to these first 2-3 movies is all of the practical sets. The castle looks incredible. The train looks amazing. All of the interior designs inside of Hogwarts look amazing. Even like I love, and I read this fact about the production designer, is she wanted to add to the Dursleys awfulness by specifically picking out the ugliest furniture that she could for their house, which I think is funny. Even to go as far as to have dozens and dozens of trained owls. Those aren't CGI. There's one shot where they're CGI, and I think it's when they all fly in and they have the mail. That's CGI. But for a majority of it, especially in the opening 20, 30 minutes, like that sequence that you had just brought up where the Dursleys and Harry are getting all this mail, which we find out is Harry's letter to Hogwarts and they don't want him to go. But all of those practical owls, real owls, and I just think all that is really, really cool. I love going back and seeing those timeless effects.
You know what I want to highlight about the Dursleys? What makes them... I thought about this the last few times I watched this. I was like... We all know they're evil, they're nasty and all that.
Yeah.
I think what makes them the most evil is the fact that they hate Harry, right? They wish he, like, they didn't even have to watch him, like, be his guardian. They hate this kid so much, they'd rather keep him around to, like, strip him of any happiness and make their life miserable than just be rid of him, but he's experiencing joy. Like, that's crazy.
Josh,
'cause
it is insane that you said that, because that is literally one of my notes in Chamber of Secrets is why are they desperately trying to keep Harry from going away? I thought they hated him and don't want him around.
No, because, that's how much they don't want him, like, well, because they said in the first, they swore they would put a stop to all this. Why they want to so bad, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess that's because, like, Well, we find out later why, like, more so Petunia is so adamant about putting a stop to the magic is, like, just being envious of her sister, pretty much. And she kind of, like, alludes to that in the first one when she says, my perfect sister, my parents were so proud of her. Mm-hmm. I guess that's where it stems from, why they're so, like, forward about keeping him chained up there, even though they hate him so much. That's how I took it.
Yeah, it is weird. I guess maybe it does, in a sense, add that extra layer of awfulness, because it's like, oh, they would genuinely rather keep him around and keep him miserable than just be rid of him, which is, thankfully, after the first two movies, not that much of a problem, because in the third film, that's when Harry starts to get a little bit of agency and is like, you know what, fuck this. I can use magic. I can do whatever the fuck I want, and I appreciate that. But sticking to this first film, okay, so what I did forget to mention, because I wanted to bring it up when I was going over the setup for this movie, like who directed it, the budget and everything, is how me and you watched this movie. So Josh and I...
Oh, yeah.
Well, first off, Josh owns the Blu-rays of these movies and just, I guess, didn't feel like popping it in.
No, I thought I did. Then I clarified with Jake, I only own Order 5 through 8. I only own them on Blu-ray. The other ones I just own on DVD.
Well, you better watch those Blu-rays then, because... So what ended up happening is I made the mistake. I think in our last episode, I had said that the Harry Potter films are on Max, because last I had checked, they were on Max. And also, Warner Brothers owns Harry Potter, and Warner Brothers' streaming service is HBO Max. So I thought, hey, that makes sense. But Josh informed me when I was going to watch these movies that they were now somehow streaming on Peacock. And not only are they streaming on Peacock, but on Peacock, there is only one version of these movies to watch, and they are the extended editions that are edited for TV. So you have scenes that are extended, you have scenes that are straight up not in the movie originally that are in the movie now, and to make things worse, there are weird fades to black as if you're watching it on TV and it's about to cut to commercial.
So many fades. It was driving me insane. Oh my god. But the thing that drove me the most crazy were the fucking end credits. This shit...
That's so funny.
I've never seen anything... I've never seen a streaming service do this, not even on Peacock.
Yeah.
They speed up these credits 1,000 times where... they're probably like 10 minutes long, right?
In reality? Yeah, they're probably... maybe not 10, but probably like 6-7 minutes at least.
They're 20 seconds. 20 seconds long.
They fly by.
And it's weird because they play the music like normally.
They don't speed up the music, yeah.
Yeah, so this was like, I don't fucking know why they did that. So
Well,
that was insane.
I think it was funny because as I was watching it, because Josh didn't mention that there was extended scenes. He had only said like there's weird fades. So I'm watching the movie, and I think the first extended scene that you notice, or at least I noticed, is they're talking about so they show a shot of Dudley, and he's in this like ridiculous outfit, and they talk about him going to this like really preppy private school, and Harry's like, well, am I going there? And they're like, and Petunia starts laughing, and she walks over and she's like, you go there? Ah, what a joke. And then she's boiling Harry's outfit in water on the stove and pulls it out. She's like, this is what you'll be wearing. And I'm like, I've seen this movie maybe 30 times in my life. I have never once seen this shit happen. And
This was your first time?
I've never seen the extended version.
I started to when I would see it on TV.
I've never watched it on TV, no.
I did a lot because they would always be on, and I noticed. Oh, I was like, I never saw these scenes before. So I think on TV they always do the extended. So I was like used to seeing these, which are not usually like 90% of them are not needed, which is why they were cut.
Literally every single extended scene is not necessary. There are scenes that straight up just deliver information that we find in the next following scene. So in the original version of the movie, we didn't really talk about the plot of this movie, but when Harry is going to when Hagrid visits him and tells him he's a wizard, you're going to Hogwarts, you're going to study under Albus Dumbledore, the greatest wizard ever, yada yada. Anyway, Harry goes with Hagrid, and they stop at Gringotts Bank, which is awesome. Another really cool set. You get a lot of really cool practical effects. Warwick Davis from who played, I believe he played one of the, what are they called in Return of the Jedi? Ewoks. He played an Ewok in Return of the Jedi. I think he's like the main Ewok. He returns. He plays the head goblin at Gringotts. You get a lot of cool prosthetics on them. The makeup effects look fantastic, as they should for a budget this big. Looks amazing. But anyway, they sort of start you on this mystery of going down into the vaults of Gringotts. And again, the vaults look awesome. Really awesome set. I cannot highlight enough how awesome the sets are in this movie. But they go down into the vaults to show Harry, hey, look, you're rich now. So that's fun. He goes from being the brokest boy to the richest boy in like half a second.
And also, let's note, most irresponsible boy with the money, and I'll get into that when he's on the fucking train.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh my god.
But no, so one thing that's spoken of is after Harry gets the gold, they have to stop at another vault, and Hagrid can't tell Harry what's in this vault. It doesn't stop him from taking him in the vault, but he can't know what's in it. And inside of it, the vault opens. You get this amazingly well-framed shot of this package, this tiny little package sitting on top of this platform. And Harry's very curious to see what it is. And throughout the course of the film, you obviously find out that it is the Sorcerer's Stone, which is a stone, or if you're in literally any other country outside of America, it's the Philosopher's Stone. Quick little tidbit. Basically, they changed the name Philosopher to Sorcerer's Stone because they weren't sure that Americans would know what a philosopher is, which I think is utterly hilarious. So they changed the name. Going as far as to film 2 takes of every scene in which the phrase Sorcerer's Stone is said. They did one where they said philosophers and one where they said sorcerers. And so they're trying to figure out the mystery behind this Sorcerer's Stone, correct? And in the extended version of the film, there's a scene where they start reading Dumbledore's trading card, because they have like trading cards in this universe of like famous wizards, and Ron is reading it, and they see the name Nicholas Flamel. And they had already heard this name before because Hagrid lets it slip to them. And so they want to know who Nicholas Flamel is, and then they figure out who he is by reading the card. That scene is not in the original movie, because in the original movie, the very next scene is Hermione approaching Ron and Harry and going, oh, I had you guys looking in the wrong section. Nicholas Flamel," and then proceeds to read about Nicholas Flamel, and you find out he's a philosopher who made this stone that allows you to basically live forever. It's like an immortality stone. So I don't even know why they filmed that scene. It serves no purpose. You find out the exact information in the very next scene. And this brings us all around to, hey, Peacock, why the fuck is on your streaming service, why do you have the stupid extended edited for TV version instead of just the normal version?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I want to look up more like on see if there's like Reddit pages on this. If anyone else is just like,
there is
furious with this.
There is.
Yeah?
I looked into it because I was like, what is going on? I looked into it. There's a whole Reddit thread about people talking about the streams. That's where, because when you said it, I was confused as to why it was like this. And then reading up, they were like, oh no, this is the edited for TV version. And it makes
is that like
no fucking sense.
Is that all they could afford? Like, was that like a cheaper version of the?
I'm wondering,
version of the movie to have on it.
Does Peacock have ads on it? I have an ad-free version. So is there an ads version? And I'm wondering. Okay, so that's probably what is.
Oh, no, okay,
that's probably what it is.
No, it's only when you start it. Like, it's weird because sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. When I started the first one, there was not one ad, but the second one, when I hit play, they give you like a 50-second ad before the movie starts, and then that's it. There's no ads in those fades.
That's so odd.
Yeah.
But no, I actually, Josh thought that I would use the extended scenes to criticize the movies, which I do sound heated, and I am. But I know I've seen these Harry Potter films enough times to know what the extended scenes are, so I'm not gonna hold it against these movies. I'm holding it against Peacock because fuck you, Peacock. It was unnecessary.
The editing team knew well enough what to cut, and they did.
Yeah, no, it makes you appreciate the actual original version even more because you're like, oh, like they knew what fat to trim and what not to include. Mm-hmm. Because again, none of the extended or added footage does anything to service the plot or the story. It honestly hurt. If it was like this is the real version, it actually would hurt the pacing and the structure of the story. Mm-hmm. But I know it's not.
And the extended makes you like just dislike Snape even more because he's just like stooping down to this 11-year-old's level of being so unfair. Like, he's just bullying this kid in his classroom, where like
But that scene's in the original.
No, that's extended. I think
they extend the scene. The scene in the original still happens where he's calls him out.
When he's doing but when he's doing like the pop quiz and shit. That's extended, I think.
No,
right?
that's in the original. Where it cuts
is it?
In the original it cuts like after that, and in the extended scene, that's when Snape walks over and sits in front of Harry and like pulls a stool out in front of him and they come like face to face. That's all added, but the original scene.
No, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so he does hammer it in, and I wrote actually a note about that in my because they're never really clear on the time that from when Harry arrives at Hogwarts to when the classes are taking place. It's structured in a way to where it feels like this is the first day of classes. And if that's the case, then Snape is being an extra dick because what did I write down? I think I wrote something along the lines of, Snape, you need to chill out. He literally just found out that he was a wizard yesterday. Like, all of these other kids were born into magic and know what magic is. And he literally didn't know that magic existed until 24 hours ago. So why the fuck would he know about Wolfsbane or any of these other fucking questions?
Actually, wait, you're right. Yeah, no, I'm mistaken. Yeah, in the original, he does, because he's still up there on the podium when he does the little pop quiz. And when he comes to his level, that's when he's explaining everything. So never mind. The original still has Snape looking like a little bitch.
I think in the it does,
like, just toying with it.
I think in the original scene it ends after Snape says, "Well, if we've learned anything, it's that fame isn't everything." I think it cuts there.
Now, why doesn't Harry just simply say, "I was taking notes on what you were just talking about. Look at my paper."
I also wrote that.
It's as simple as that, Harry. Like, I get Snape as being unfair. How about you just stand up for yourself and instead of being a little, like, snarky bitch?
He takes notes. He's literally writing down what you are saying. What is the problem?
Yeah. Just show him the paper that you just wrote.
I
Oh my God.
don't understand. Also, I know we're doubling back, and I want you to talk about the train scene because I know you're eager to talk about that. But
Oh yeah.
one wrote that I get that they're like the whole point of like Dudley and Harry's dynamic is to show how the Dursleys treat their own child as opposed to Harry. But can I just say, 37 presents for a 10-year-old is absolutely ludicrous. Like, what the fuck
Yeah.
does Vernon do for a job that he can afford 37 gifts?
Dude's in sales, and he is damn good at it, I guess. But when he says some of them are bigger than last year, does he mean the actual size of the present or the expense of them?
I assume the size, which he should know that the best things come in the smallest packages. So I say that because I'm a short person, so I have to defend my people.
I'm very short too, Jake. Don't worry. Yeah, I'm 5'8". 5'8".
I'm 5'6", but 5'7" on a good day.
Yeah, we love those good days.
I was measured at 5'7" one time in my life, and I've always
take that.
Apologies also if you can hear loud cars in the background. People are drag racing. It sounds like.
Oh, I can't hear anything. But to the train scene. Well, I first wanted to ask is it allowed that Hagrid takes Harry? Because he's still under their care. Don't they have to like approve him going or no? Is that legal?
I mean, is it legal to put a tail on an 11-year-old?
Exactly. So Hagrid's just doing all these illegal things.
Also, they make a big deal, and I know I'm skipping ahead in the second one to talk about how Hagrid got, like, he lost his wand and was expelled and everything. But it doesn't matter because apparently he can still do magic even without it.
He just transformed his umbrella to a wand.
Yeah, so I don't understand why that's... Hagrid still very much can do magic, so...
So why didn't... When he gave him the ticket, how about just, like, give him a little bit of instructions? Like, this kid just found out.
Yeah.
He has no idea he has to run through a brick wall. You're just banking on him running into the Weasleys that, like, conveniently. Tell him what to do, man. Like, you just say, stick to your ticket. Thanks, Hagrid. It says 9 3/4. Asshole. I'm not from this world. Tell me what this means. Like,
Hagrid is also way too large of a gentleman to disappear like Batman does. Like Harry looks down for like 3 seconds and looks back up.
And why does he need to?
He's gone.
Why is that Why is that needed? Like, why is this like mystery of Hagrid like supposed to be there? Like, just
I guess
walk
I don't
him
know
to the train.
because they're building up that whole shit with the Sorcerer's Stone is I guess what they're attempting to do.
Yeah. But the train scene.
But go into the train scene.
I immediately want to punch Ron's face as soon as we meet him. Actually, well, we meet him at the train station. This guy does so many half smiles. I can't take it. His like big pet peeve of mine is when people do a half smile. That shit bothers me so much. And this guy's face is like 60% of the time just half of his mouth.
He's always smirking.
Yeah, and it drives me up a wall.
It's funny.
He either has like a look where he's just doing a half smile, or he just has a look of like terror.
He does have like
face.
a goofy look on him in general from most of these
But
movies.
he sits with Harry. He has this crumbled up sandwich, I guess, in a bag. But then Harry buys the entire cart. Asshole, there's people on the train, okay? Don't just because you can doesn't mean you should. Why don't you save some for the rest, okay? But then you just gave her like a pouch of gold.
Yeah.
I can assure you that does not... What do you think that's worth? Do you think she took all of it? Or do you think she was like... Do you think she was like kind of like moral and said, I only need like...
He did buy like hundreds of dollars worth of food. Like he bought the entire fucking cart.
But it's gold. Like
I don't know how much is gold worth. I don't know.
Seemed like a fucking lot to pay for candy.
Maybe he gave her a fat tip. Maybe he's generous.
She ate that tip up.
He's like, here you go, trolley lady. And
so students are allowed to bring an owl, a toad, or a cat, right? Those are the 3 things.
No, because Ron has a rat.
Well, no, that's my problem is that rats aren't allowed. When he's reading the list, he says an owl, toad, and a cat. Those are the like 3 animals you could bring to Hogwarts.
Oh, shit.
So I don't know why Ron is allowed a rat.
I hate that we can't talk about the fourth one yet because it makes any scene with the rat really uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
Or no, I guess
Yeah.
it's the third one. I'm sorry.
It's the third. It's the third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no.
I can't wait to go into that.
But yeah, so the train scene is kind of fun. It's cheeky. Harry, big spender. You get to meet Hermione for the first time in that scene, and right off the bat, she's just like a very obnoxious know-it-all. I do think it's funny though. She's like, which the whole scene, I didn't notice that Ron had dirt on his nose, but she points it out, and then he has the biggest splotch of dirt I've ever seen on a man's face. Like,
yeah, he didn't have it. Like, I went back, I was like, wait, does he have that the whole scene and I didn't notice? No, it just appears.
Yeah,
like,
I like too
in
how
the next cut.
I like how Ron kind of undercuts Harry's happiness for a second, because all Harry has heard so far about Dumbledore is that he's this magnificent wizard, and he opens the trading card pack, which has a chocolate frog in it, which is a fun, cute little detail in the world. But I'd be pretty pissed if I bought like a Kit Kat bar and it like just ran away from me. Like, I'd be like, I kind of wanted to eat that. But he gets the Dumbledore card, and he's all excited, and he's like, oh look, I got Dumbledore. And Ron's like, yeah, I got about 6 of those. And Harry just gets this like disappointed look. He's like, I thought I was special. So it's a fun little scene. What else is there to talk about in this movie? We've been kind of, I don't want to say shitting on the movie so far, but we've been a little negative. Let's talk about some positives. I think for the time, I've already highlighted the practical effects, but some of the CGI honestly looks shockingly good. I think some of it doesn't hold up. I think the worst looking effect is probably the troll. I think the troll looks pretty unconvincing.
Is that worse than the Quidditch scene?
And then the what?
Is that worse than the Quidditch scene?
No,
that's what
I'm thinking just in terms of like, I guess monster designs, because I wanted to highlight that when they go to the zoo before Harry is a wizard or whatever and goes to Hogwarts, they go to the zoo to celebrate Dudley's birthday, and the snake that they got, I thought looked very good for the time. For being 2001, the CGI snake that Harry talks to, I thought it was fairly decent. Again, the troll doesn't look great, and yeah, the Quidditch looks pretty fucking dated.
I don't think Fluffy looks bad.
No, Fluffy actually looks good. I think
Fluffy looks good.
I think Fluffy gets the benefit of, and I've always said this about visual effects and CGI, but you can mask CGI a lot better depending on the lighting and scenario, and it just so happens that Fluffy, this giant 3-headed dog, is in a very dark, dimly lit room that has almost no natural lighting sources. So anytime you see Fluffy is in the dark, whereas the troll scene takes place in a very well lit bathroom, and so you can't really obscure those dated, shoddy CGI effects as much. Same with Quidditch; it's all in the daytime.
The candles are practical except the flame, right? That was added in, I think, because they kept burning out.
Oh, if the flame was CGI, then it beats me. It looked very convincing.
Yeah, so they were like strung up on the strings, but they had the problem of like them like burning too fast, I guess.
Oh,
so
I could see that.
So they just hung them, and I think they added the flames in, which I think obviously looks amazing.
Looks
like,
excellent.
I thought they were real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had other production issues too. One being when you see the giant feast, when the kids are, after they get sorted into their houses and they're all sitting down, they do kind of like a not even a jump cut or a match cut, but they have a wide shot, a really nice looking wide shot of the mess hall, and all the kids are seated and there's nothing in front of them, and then Dumbledore kind of just does a little bit of magic, and then there's this gigantic, enormous feast of all different varieties of food in front of them, and they wanted it to look very real, so the actual production designers and set dress people got a bunch of real food, but it's real food and you're in real conditions, so the food would get bad and go moldy real quick. So in subsequent films they did use real foods, but they also made molds of a lot of the foods, like realistic looking effects, so that the food wouldn't age and wouldn't go bad as quickly. So I thought that was kind of fun. But yeah, there's sorry, what were you gonna say?
Well, no, I was gonna say a scene I really like. Obviously, the opening is really good, but my favorite scene after that comes when he goes into Diagon Alley and he first gets his wand. Now, it's it's not really because like obviously one of the most like popular shots I think or recognizable shots is when he's first holding the wand and it's like he's lit up and
Oh,
he's like and the wind.
the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, yeah. So even before that though, with the I forget which track it is. I think it's the Diagon Alley track. But the how that scene is lit with the music, it's very like mystical kind of thing. It's very mysterious. It's really well done. I love what the fuck's that guy's name?
John Hurt.
No, Ollivander.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That scene just like really kind of like got me in of like, oh, okay, this is like they're getting this like very moody mystery going kind of thing. Like just I don't know. It was just really well done. That track is really, really, really good. Which I mean, there's so many good ones in this. Which do you like the overall soundtrack of this movie?
I know you have your
feelings.
I know why you asked that. No, so okay. Obviously, the Harry Potter music is incredible. It is incredibly well composed. The obvious main theme, I believe it's called Hedwig's theme. The main track in this movie is stunning. All of the little motifs that are written by John Williams, whether it's the iconic, I don't know what the track's name is, but it's that very ominous sounding track that they play a couple times in the film. It's really great. I think they play it in the flashback where they cover Voldemort killing Harry's parents, which I always found odd about that because as a kid I always wondered, where's the dad? Like, why don't they show the father? But I think in the books or something it's explained that he wasn't at the house, like he had already been killed, and Voldemort went to the house and that's where he found the mother and Harry. But no, I do like the music in this movie a lot. I do think that as I've gotten older and I've become, I guess some would say pretentious, I say critical, but as I've become more critical with age of films and how they use music in this, while I do think that a lot of the tracks are brilliant and add, like you said, such a sense of mysticism to a scene and really elevate it in terms of its emotional weight and impact, I do feel that a lot of the Harry Potter films, and this is an issue with I think a lot of films that use John Williams scores. Well, I have two issues. One is more with John Williams, the other is just how the music is used. And it's that there's a tendency to be overly reliant on the music in a lot of the scenes to the point where they play some of the music, and albeit it's great music, but they play it a little too much to where there are some scenes where I feel had they just let the scene play out and not used any music, maybe it would have been a little bit more impactful when the music does kick in. And this is.
Do you have an example of like what scene is most noticeable where you're like, I wish there was no music in that? Like, did you write any down? Just because I'm curious which ones have music and don't, because I do feel like there's obviously a lot of. I mean, the soundtrack is like an hour and 14 minutes.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
So it's.
I don't think I wrote down any, which makes me look bad. But I didn't write down any specific scenes where I purposely felt, hey, this music doesn't fit this scene and it could be removed. I think it was just an overall feeling where I just caught myself noticing this time around. And again, I'm going to highlight it a lot when we're talking about movies, but when you watch a movie passively, even when you watch films from a more critical standpoint, like I know you and I do, there's a little bit more of a passiveness, whereas when you're talking about it or when you're watching it in the context of, I'm going to talk about this in a podcast format and really thoroughly discuss a film, I just caught myself noticing this time around, hey, they really just played two musical themes in like a 30-40 second span, and then another 20-30 seconds later they throw another theme in, and it just felt like a little bit of a bombardment of great music. Again, I will highlight that great music, but I just think they use it a little bit too much, and they do it in the second one too. And that ominous theme that I talked about, I love how it's composed and I love how well orchestrated it is, and it does add this like really intense atmosphere to it. And I think especially in the scene where Harry and Draco are in the dark forest and they stumble upon what you inevitably find out is Quill / Voldemort feasting on a unicorn drinking its blood. As you learn, unicorn blood makes you immortal and gives you everlasting life, but it also fucks your soul up a little bit. It's a great scene. The music is great, but they use that ominous theme in every scene of the movie that is supposed to be scary and ominous. I think either I would have liked maybe a little bit more variety in the music, or if they had just held off using it as much. It's not a major criticism, but it is something where I feel the music is undercut a little bit because they use it too much.
I wonder if it's an issue of John Williams kind of like repeating certain sounds in his tracks, or just them using it too much. Because I imagine if you have John Williams on your
You want to
crew,
use them.
So
No, and I get that. I think it's I can speak from a place of hindsight, but if I'm Chris Columbus in 2001 and I have one of the greatest living composers of all time at my disposal, I'm going to use a lot of the music probably. But I did mention, and you kind of led into it there, that I did feel with John Williams as a composer, again, like I just said, one of the greatest living composers of all time. He's composed many, many of my favorite themes. But I have a tendency now to notice, after watching a lot of films that use John Williams, that a lot of his scores and a lot of the themes tend to sound a little too similar. And while going through the IMDb trivia of Sorcerer Stone and even Chamber Secrets, I noticed that a lot of the trivia facts, not a lot, a couple of the trivia facts had highlighted how certain themes and musical compositions in both of the films had mirrored or had taken inspiration from other John Williams scores in Indiana Jones films and other John Williams movies. And it's not a major thing. It's something that I've noticed this years ago. I think the first time I really noticed it was I had watched E.T. like 5 or 6 years back. And while I was watching it, I was like, damn, a lot of this music sounds very Star Wars-esque. Like, I know it's John Williams, but it almost feels plucked from Star Wars. And again, a lot of composers use similar sounds. Zimmer, James Newton Howard, a lot of composers do, but there's something about John Williams where I find it a little bit more noticeable. But maybe it's just because he is so good at crafting whimsical, magical scores. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough because what's the difference between having a signature but also being too repetitive? I don't know. It's because, like, I mean, we were kind of talking about this before the podcast. We were talking about, like, Hans Zimmer, which you said kind of has the same problem. But then I said Howard Shore, who, in my opinion, has, like, the greatest score of all time, Lord of the Rings. If you listen to his scores, I guarantee you'll hear similarities in the Lord of the Rings. Because I told you a movie I recently watched, Pale Blue Eye.
Correct.
I was watching it with Lauren, and Lauren isn't, like, you know, she doesn't look at movies critically. She's not like that in that much in touch with, like, movies in general.
Yeah.
But we were watching it, and she was like, "Did the Lord of the Rings guy do the music for this?" Like, she immediately heard it. So I also play a game. We play this game where I have a bunch of, like, movie soundtracks on my phone. I shuffle them, and she just tries to guess what movie it is.
I've played it with you guys. It's fun.
Yeah. Every time I play a John Williams movie, so I have so many of his movies on there, she guesses all John Williams movies. Like, she says, "Oh, is that Jaws? Oh, is that E.T.?" Like, she's guessing, but she doesn't know who John Williams is. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think it's
tough.
It's a tough comparison, though, because in the way that I'm comparing it, like, a lot of the Harry Potter tracks, and there's one specifically in Chamber of Secrets that is, like, directly very similar to one in Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade.
That upset me when you upset me when you told me that.
You'll get even more upset when I tell you what the two scenes are, because they are pretty much the exact two same scenes.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a little, I don't want to say frustrating, but it does make me feel like, because your comparison is Lord of the Rings, which, again, Lord of the Rings, like you said, best movie soundtrack of all time. I think that's an unquestionable, easy answer. But Pale Blue Eyes came out, 2 years ago? Like 2022? Yeah. So that's, you know, in that regard, I give the credit to Lord of the Rings. Now, to be fair, I haven't gone back and I'm sure I've heard Howard Shore's score of a film before Lord of the Rings, but I just wouldn't know it off the top of my head. But yeah, I just think it does overall. As you know, to kind of close out the music conversation, I think a lot of the themes and compositions written by John Williams in this film are excellent. I think they are phenomenally well orchestrated. The use of different instruments is excellent, and they really, it is so iconic, and to the point where, you know, people can hum the Harry Potter theme who probably have never even seen the movie. It's just such an iconic pop culture meme at this, or not meme, but theme at this point, to where people
I wonder what
know
it was like reading the books about that theme, because when I was reading it, the music just kept playing in my head.
Hear it,
like
yeah. No, it's so synonymous with the films and Harry Potter at this point, and the music, and it's literally the first note I wrote when starting Sorcerer's Stone. And I'm someone who is very outspokenly against nostalgia. I don't like when companies or films or books or video games really play on your nostalgia, because it just feels like a cheap way to get a reaction out of me. But I can't even deny that the first note I wrote, the music is so nostalgic off the bat. It immediately, I don't want to say makes me feel like a child again, but when I sit down to watch Sorcerer's Stone, that music hits and you're just there again. You're 10 years old in your parents' house watching in your living room, and you're just sucked in. I picture myself like even younger than that, like 6-7 years old, popping my VHS copy of Sorcerer's Stone in, and that music just kicks in, the Warner Brothers logo.
Like,
it's so iconic and visually stunning, and the music just it hits. But
I do hate using the word nostalgia, because I feel like it's just been overused. Like, so, over the years, I'm hearing it more. Maybe it's because we're getting older. It's like maybe this is when you really start feeling it in your 20s. I don't know, but I guess I like to use the word like emotional. Like, it's easy to use the word nostalgic, but yeah, I mean, the music just kind of makes you feel like those emotions, to where it's like you just feel blissful kind of
music to me, more than any other media, has an ability to really take me back to a time and place. Or like when I listen to a specific song or hear a theme from a movie that I watched as a child, it really just takes you back. And I don't think nostalgia is always bad, but one thing I want to highlight as my kind of last thought when it comes to music, and it's something that I think bringing up Lord of the Rings does extremely well, and Harry Potter also does very well, is that the themes are so good in the movie as an isolated piece, not even in the grand scheme of the entire franchise. Like, sure, when you watch the last Harry Potter film, like that music hits and you're like, oh, it's like the music from all the beginning. It's great, but what's even more impressive is by the end of Sorcerer's Stone, they play themes that were played at the beginning of the film, and just from that 2.5-hour experience of that movie, you already start to feel nostalgic. And I think it's really, they do it really well with the Shire theme in Lord of the Rings, and they do it really well here with some of the themes that you're introduced to towards the beginning of the film. And again, when you play them at the end, you're like, oh, remember before Voldemort was a scary face on the back of a bald man? But yeah, so that really kind of closes my thoughts out on in terms of the music, and we're kind of nearing the hour point here. I just wanted to highlight some quotes that I thought were pretty funny. At one point in the film, when they get mail, Neville is gifted a, what do they call it? A remember ball, a
remember-all.
A remember-all, and he gets it, and one of the students, it might be Hermione, says, "Oh, I know what that is. That's a remember-all. It tells you when you get red smoke in the ball when you've forgotten something." And Neville looks at it and he's like, "The problem is, I can't remember what I've forgotten." It's a funny little, obviously, like the memeable lines, like it's Leviosa, not Leviosa. Just little stuff like that is super memorable to me.
Oh my god, infuriating Hermione scene again. So I mean, I have like a couple like. I have a question about Quidditch. I think they do a good job with kind of like
stupid sport
setting up, whatever.
It doesn't make. Josh, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Hang on. So I have a problem with the rules that don't make sense. Okay, when Wood is training Harry, is the snitch an automatic win, or is it just an extra 150 points? It doesn't make sense.
Okay, you as a book reader should know this. But no. Okay, so yes, when the Seeker which is what Harry is, when the Seeker catches the Golden Snitch, the team who catches the Golden Snitch is awarded 150 points and the game ends. You do
Why?
not get an automatic win. It just ends the game. Catching the Golden Snitch ends the game, and the team that gets it is gifted 150 points. Because of how the points work in the game of Quidditch, and typically it's a lot of close matches, getting 150 points and ending the game would automatically give your team the win. However, there was a case in professional Quidditch in the lore of Harry Potter in which a team was behind by so much that when their Seeker did catch the Snitch, the team was gifted 150 points, the game won, but they were still behind the other team in points, so they lost the match inevitably.
Okay, so it's 150 points. That's what
it's 150 points and the game ends. Yeah.
So if you have 10 points and the other team has 170 and you catch it, you just lost yourself the game.
You lose. Correct.
Okay, that's so fucking stupid.
Which Ed Wood does not explain, and for the not Ed Wood, what am I talking about? Oliver Wood. So me and Josh were talking about Ed Wood yesterday. Oliver Wood, who I wrote in my notes, I really like Oliver Wood, and I wish that he had gotten more screen time because he seems like a cool guy. I like that character. I just wish he was in it more. And but no, Oliver Wood does not explain it properly to Harry because all he says to him is, "Oh, you catch the Snitch, we win." And I think the implication, and it's probably handled differently in the book, but I think the implication is all of Hogwarts, which is essentially middle school and high school. Like middle school and high school Quidditch is going to be close enough to where, yeah, if you do catch the Snitch, you do automatically win because the team is not going to be ahead of us by 150 points. But I guess in professional Quidditch, maybe it's a little different. But yeah, it does throw you off because he mentions nothing about getting 150 points and the game ending. But when the game starts, the student who's doing the announcing for the Quidditch match says the Golden Snitch, when Harry catches it, she goes, Gryffindor is awarded 150 points and they win. And they don't explain that. So yeah, it's not thoroughly explained, but either way. You know what problem I have with Quidditch is in what fucking sport is it completely legal to take out the entire other team?
Right. Okay. So that's another note I had.
Yeah.
These Slytherin players are actively swinging that bat that you're only supposed to use for the bludger.
Yeah.
They're swinging at people's heads.
Oh yeah.
There's no fouls in this game. How are there no fouls?
But by the time Harry stops making stupid faces and realizes he wants to do something, it's so funny. There's like a supercut of him just making like fun like wincing faces every time like a Gryffindor gets taken out, because it happens like there's only like 7 or 8 players on a Quidditch team, and Gryffindor gets like 3 or 4 of them taken out, including Oliver, who's their goalie. Imagine playing hockey and your goalie just gets fucking taken out of the game and you don't have a goalie.
They don't stop
now.
the game. Yeah, they just let me tell you, those Slytherin players, I don't care that they were losing by 20 points in the beginning. They were fucking better. They're just better players. They're doing these trick shots. Like
they're not better. They're better.
They're better.
They only started scoring once they killed half the other team.
No, they're better. No, they're better. Sorry, they're better. They're better. What's it called? The quaffle. They're better quaffle handlers.
J.K. Rowling is
like,
terrible at naming things. Yeah, the Quidditch, what we mentioned earlier, I think this Quidditch scene looks pretty bad. Anytime it's not clearly a character just like floating on their broom in front of a green screen, anytime there's like movement in the shot, the characters look like absolute like cartoon character PS1 level video game graphics. And it's not even just that Quidditch scene. In the scene earlier when they're doing the broomstick practice, and something happens. Neville gets on his broom and he starts going crazy. When he's flying in the air, that looks really bad. Even the shot when he falls off his broom onto the top of the statue, it clearly is like a CGI version of his character, and it looks really fucking bad. But
I have a note about when they're learning how to fly.
Yeah.
This shit makes no sense. So summoning the broom, the spell is up. What the fuck happened to Accio or Accio?
No,
right?
Accio is an actual spell that brings any object to you.
Right.
Josh, I'm going to tell you this right now because it'll set a precedent for the rest of these movies we talk about. She did not plan a single one of these books out. Every book
I'm just saying.
she wrote as she was going because J.K. Rowling is a bad author. Bad. She had a really good idea, took a bunch of other like fantasy elements from Dune, from Lord of the Rings, and fused it into a children's book, and it got really popular, and she wrote 6 more of them. She did not plan these out. Shit that is introduced in this movie or in this first story, in the second story specifically, does not make sense later. Plenty of things don't add up because she did not think any of this through.
I don't remember if Up was in the book.
It's dumb. You know what? In general, the magic in this movie is dumb. It is bad and stupid.
So what does Up do? It just levitates a broom up to your hand. Is that all it does? Like if I look at another object and I say Up, does it like float up? I don't know.
I couldn't tell you. But yeah, that's all right. Let's go into that because that's one of my criticisms with this movie. The magic is boring. The magic is not cool in this movie in the slightest. They use it for just like the dumbest, most rudimentary shit, like opening locks and fixing glasses.
And I get really irritated when like there's like a really good spell that just never gets used when you actually need it. So, what was the one that Hermione used to freeze Neville? Trificus Totalis?
Yes.
Why the fuck did I never see that spell ever again in this like series? That freezes you.
Do you see any of the spells in this movie ever used again?
In this one specifically, I don't know. Actually.
Do they ever even use like Aloha Morha or do they even use Wingardium Leviosa again?
I guess we'll find out when we watch them. I can't remember now.
But either way, I just find, since that was a criticism of... Now, I will say the magic is better in this than Halloween Town, but that was a criticism of ours in Halloween Town, that the magic just isn't cool. And they just do nothing with it in this movie.
She does like a Lumos spell, but it's a lot more than Lumos. It's like the fucking power of the sun or something like that. When she...
when they...
like... the Devil's Snare when she like lights it up or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like Lumos something. That was a lot more powerful than fucking Lumos. I mean, Lumos is just a flashlight.
All right. So actually, since I guess we should probably be nearing the end of our Sorcerer's Stone discussion. Yeah. You can look through your notes, but I'll get into one of the things that I know I kind of like, but it's basically the last act. Let's discuss the last act. Because the whole
doesn't make sense.
The whole plot has led to, basically, it's uncovered that the Sorcerer's Stone, like we said, is this immortality gem that was created by this philosopher Nicholas Flamel, and you find out that it is in Hogwarts. It's being kept in Hogwarts, and you think that initially you think the only thing guarding it is Fluffy, this giant 3-headed dog who you find out is Hagrid's pet. And there's a trapdoor under it. And the students are like, oh, we think that someone is going after it. And for most of the movie, you're led to believe that it is Professor Snape. They think that Professor Snape is the bad guy who's after the Philosopher's Stone. And so the 3 main kids, Harry, Ron, Hermione, they all go after the stone. And they get past Fluffy, and then it's kind of unraveled and made clear that they're going to have to get through a series of other tests, including catching a flying key to unlock a door and play wizard's chess, and also they get stuck in the Devil's Snare, which is like these plants that suffocate you. And in the book, I know it to be a fact that all of these tests were things that were highlighted throughout the book. The only reason that Hermione knew the Devil's Snare spell is because Snape taught them in his herbology, or Snape taught them in his class that these plants are afraid of sunlight. And I think there's other challenges in the book, but
I think it's a potion one. I think that's the one. There might be another.
That's what it is. Snape teaches them this potion thing, and I think they also had a class scene in the book that taught them about the Devil's Snare, and that's when Hermione knows how to use that. But either way, I don't hate the climax. I know a lot of people have beef with it, but to me, sure, it doesn't make sense. Specifically, the chess sequence. The chess sequence
Yeah.
is stupid, and I hate it. But everything
Yeah.
else, I do think it's kind of fun. It does feel satisfying
Yeah.
that all of these talents that the kids have acquired over the course of the story are now being used in this final test.
I have no problem with the tasks. I like it. I don't like the chess, and I'll get into that. But when you realize that Professor Quirrell did all these, but everything is kind of back, like it's mostly like the key scene. How is everything back in place? How is the broom back in place? Like you have to fly and like unlock the door, and then he like, why would he not take that with him? Why would he leave like the stuff behind for other people to do?
Well, they needed Harry. They needed Harry. They
Yeah.
needed Harry in the end because he was the only one who could get the stone.
Oh yeah, I guess. Okay, so that eliminates that problem.
It
So
adds up,
I guess.
But let's skip to the chess scene because that is where. Now I don't remember how it plays out in the book, but ever since I was a kid, I had always wondered, and it never made sense to me, why they have to be on the chessboard and why Ron
Yeah.
decides to stand or sit on one of the chess pieces. Would it have not?
So Hermione takes the one of the castle on the queen side, whatever.
Okay.
She takes the rook, whatever you call it. There's no piece there. So why are some pieces not there where you just take the place of it? It's like only two of them, and it's where Harry and Hermione are.
No.
Why aren't the pieces there?
It just doesn't add up, and they only do this so they could have this big sacrifice moment where
It's so low. The stakes are so low.
which, if you want to talk about performances, this to me is one of the weakest exchanges because Ron kind of makes it clear that he's going to sacrifice his piece so that Hermione and Harry can move on. And Hermione, being the smartest one, hasn't clued in on this yet. And I need to get this verbatim. Oh,
Is it the one everyone quotes? Is it like the scene that's just made fun of all the time?
It might be, but even before that, I think it is funny when Ron has the one line where they're like, you take that spot, you take that spot, and he's like, and then we play. And it's just not cool. You're not cool, Ron. Like, you're not a cool character. But, okay, so here's where it is. Harry shouts out for some reason. He goes, he's going to sacrifice himself. And the harshest audio cut I've seen in a while cuts to Hermione going, no, you can't.
Yeah, that whole exchange is just comical.
It's bad. And then Ron takes the big sword, like the one chess piece is like a knight, I guess, and like pulls out the sword, smashes his chess piece, knocking him to the floor, which knocks him unconscious, which bleeds right into that scene that me and Josh talked about earlier where Hermione tells Harry that he's a great wizard, which is unequivocally not true. He's great at riding a broom. He's very skilled at riding the broom, but he's not a good wizard.
Yeah, he's very brave. That's it. But dude, what the hell am I supposed to think like Ron was facing death? This guy fell like a few feet on the ground. The most painful thing of his sacrifice was when that rock just gypped him in the fucking eye. After he landed, a rock falls and cuts his head a little bit.
Yeah, it's played up very seriously, but it's kind of laughable.
It's too dramatic.
Yeah.
For no reason. And I get you can't cross the board. They have the swords on the pawns. There's a whole room around the board. I imagine if they try to walk around the board, maybe they'll like get stopped. But how about, I don't know, make the board the whole length of the room or something like that, where you can't. I don't know. I can see space to just walk off the board and around. I don't know. I don't think that scene was. It's like a cool setup,
yeah.
But I don't think it's blocked. It's not blocked as well as it could be to make it believable or like, I don't know. Yeah, Ron on the knight on the fucking horse just doesn't make any sense.
It does
and then,
suck
like,
though because I like the set. Like I think the giant chessboard is cool.
Yeah. I don't know. And I guess when you're done playing, I guess the pieces just kind of like put themselves back together. I'm assuming. I don't know.
They just
or maybe you have to
go to the bar. They go to the bar and they have a drink. Their shift's over.
Yeah, that scene I just wish was better. And that's like that's the last task.
Yeah.
It's like built up to that, and I don't know. I kind of liked the Devil's Snare a little bit more because like
I liked
don't know.
all the other tasks a lot better, and I don't mind the wizard chess if it had just been normal and not so dramatic. Like, just let Ron
Yeah, just let
just
him
showcase
play.
his skill. They build that up earlier in the movie that he's good at
Yeah.
wizard's chess, and
Don't make it like a physical battle. Like it's not what it is. It's a mind battle. It's not supposed to be like
Yeah.
you ride the horse and you take a sacrifice physically. No, what sacrifice? How did you get knocked out? It doesn't make sense. Whatever. Harry moves on, and Quirrell's just waiting so patiently in front of the mirror of Erised, which we didn't really talk about, but we don't really have to.
quickly to mention it, as Josh said, the mirror of Erised is the mirror that Harry stumbles upon, and he inside of the mirror he sees his two parents, and it you find out that the mirror shows you what your heart's truest desire is. And so when Ron looks into it, he's the head of the house. He just won the Quidditch Cup. He's shaking hands with Dumbledore. And this is another one I want to add because Peacock adds an additional scene because they're celebrating the holidays, because this is where, and we didn't really talk about it, but obviously you go through the whole school year, so you get some really nice production changes when it's Halloween time. You get floating pumpkins in the sky, which is when the troll scene takes place. Then you get Christmas, and the Christmas stuff looks absolutely gorgeous. The snow on the castle looks delightful. It's so charming and wonderful and whimsical, and I just love it. But they have a scene where after Harry discovers the mirror and points it out to Ron and realizes, oh, his parents aren't really there. And he has a really sad line before this extra scene, though, where Ron goes, do you think it shows us our future? He goes, how can it? My parents are already dead. And it makes you feel really bad, and it's backed behind an amazing John Williams compositional score, and it's phenomenal. But they add in a bonus scene where the Weasleys are in the mess hall, and the leftover kids who didn't go on, Christmas and winter break. Quick note, it also bothers me that they say Happy Christmas instead of Merry Christmas. Always throws me for a loop. But they have an extra scene where Harry's just sitting off by himself, staring into the fire, clearly distraught, clearly upset, and Ron walks over to him and says, Harry, don't dwell on that mirror, don't yada yada. And it's an extra scene, and you realize it doesn't make any fucking sense because, yet again, similar to the whole Nicholas Flamel debacle, they have the next scene, Harry's at the mirror again, looking into it, and Dumbledore approaches him and tells him about the mirror and says that we're going to get rid of this mirror. Please don't go looking for it. Live in the present. Don't live in the past. And it's a really great sentimental moment and great exchange.
It has one of the best lines of the movie. I guess one of Dumbledore's most popular lines, right? Mm-hmm. He says, "It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live."
It's incredible, and Richard Harris is fantastic in this movie, and just gives such a good understated performance. He's so calm and collected and has this presence, but in the moments where he has to be guttural, like when all the students start freaking out because of the troll, you just get this amazing yell by him where he just goes silence, and everybody just quiets the fuck down, and it's incredible. But anyway, leading into the final kind of climax of the movie, Harry leaves Hermione to stay with Ron, goes to the mirror of Erised deep in the kind of dungeons of Hogwarts, and stumbles upon Professor Quirrell, who thus removes his turban. That's a turban? Is it a turban? No, it's not a turban. Is it a turban?
I thought it was.
Okay, so he removes his turban, headpiece, whatever it is, and there is a face on the back of his head, and it is revealed that it is Voldemort, who is sharing Professor Quirrell's body as a sort of parasite. I don't know how you feel about that.
I will say I like the look of Voldemort here. I think this kind of like
he's got a nose.
Yeah, but like that's kind of like what you picture when you read about like Voldemort's description in the books. I feel like like creepy looking enough. No. I don't know. It's do a lot of people not like this? I don't really hear many people talk about the end of this too much. So I don't really know like what the
this is what I had a question with, because I thought for a while you and our good friend Ross and other folks in the Harry Potter community had always felt that this ending was a little anticlimactic.
A little underwhelming.
But
yeah,
I will say, in its defense, I kind of love the sheer brutality of it because, and we'll get into this in later films, but too many of the confrontations in the later films basically boil down to two guys pointing their wands at each other while magic colored beams interlock, which is boring to me. Whereas in this film, Harry pretty much, first off, Voldemort doesn't even try to kill him with a spell. He straight up just tries to choke Harry to death, which is
why.
I don't know,
So
but I like it.
So that's a problem I have though, because like
Interesting.
this guy just snapped his fingers and created fucking fire around them. Why is he resulting to choking him? How does he not? I guess Voldemort doesn't know that he still can't be touched by Harry. I guess he doesn't know that.
Yeah, so and we didn't mention it, but the way and why leading more into why I like it is Harry defeats Voldemort / Quirrell in this by touching him, because Harry's touch has a deathly effect on Voldemort, and so when he touches Quirrell's face to kind of fend off from the choking, it starts burning and his skin starts burning and falling off and he starts crumbling, and that's ultimately how he's defeated, is just by being touched by Harry and crumbling to death. And I don't know, it's just so different from how all the other final confrontations in the series go between Harry and Voldemort.
It is different. Yeah.
I don't know, there's just something kind of visceral and physical about it. Like,
I know, but it doesn't make sense to me. That's my only thing, is that I do like it, and I get it's different. A different isn't always going to be good for me when it doesn't really make sense.
Totally fair.
Of why there's too many questions of like why he flew at him.
Yeah.
He flew at him too. He fucking used
Yeah.
magic to fly at him, and then just result to like the most classic way of like killing someone, when you could just make it easy on yourself and fucking kill him. Just cast a fucking spell at him.
Correct.
Get the stone that appears in his pocket, which is kind of like unknown. The later scene, Dumbledore kind of says how that happened, but still, I feel like it's unclear.
Yeah,
just
it's
shows up.
sort
I
of
don't
just
know.
explained that, and it goes back to that amazing scene and delivery that we talked about with Dumbledore and Harry in front of the mirror, where he basically says, "No, Harry, it doesn't show you what you want. It shows you your heart's deepest desire." And so Quirrell and Voldemort couldn't get it because it wasn't what their hearts truly desired, and I guess Harry desired them not to have it. I feel like that's the explanation, but it's a little convoluted. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I don't know. That's why
Voldemort like almost gets Harry to like trust him, I think. When he shows the parents behind him.
Yeah.
If he just kept the fucking image of his parents there,
no, it's,
and not have them disappear.
No, he
them
does.
Disappearing just.
And I kind of love, because I think this movie in that moment does do a pretty good job, because they do try to tackle this a little bit later on in the series of Harry wondering if he's too similar to Voldemort and if he's a good person or a bad person. And I do kind of like that little internal struggle. Like, this is a lot for an 11-year-old to deal with. To be shown your dead parents and all you've ever wanted is this family, and it is a little bit convincing, but I like, Harry's a good guy through and through. But yeah, the only reason I kind of were asking you your opinions on it was because I did feel like I had heard you in the past and our friend Ross kind of criticize the ending of this film and the confrontation with Voldemort, and I do know it's a criticism of, like I said, people in the community of these films.
I like the things we talked about. I like things about it. It feels very rushed. You kind of get there, you're out of there in like 3 minutes. I don't know. It just I don't know what they could have done to like take their time with this part. Maybe less time on the chess. Maybe, I don't know.
Just get rid of the chess. Yeah, no. My only big criticism with the final climax is I think the first time you sort of meet Voldemort in the film, which is truly in the Dark Forest when you stumble upon him feeding on the unicorn blood. That scene is excellent, and so it honestly, even as an adult, is kind of scary to me. Like, it's very creepy.
That's still Quirrell. That's still him drinking the blood.
Yeah, but Voldemort is the one getting him to do it. But no, I just thought that scene was I think that scene is excellent until the centaur shows up, because that was awful CGI. and even that one doesn't even have the excuse of it had the opportunity because it was in a darkly lit forest, but I guess anytime you get like any bit of light shown on it, it looked very dated and bad. But yeah, so overall, I do enjoy the climax, but I don't love the final scene, which is when they're in the mess hall. It's the closing feast of the Hogwarts year. And basically, we didn't establish it, but there's these things called like house points, and you gain house points by doing things like getting a question right in class or doing a good service or a good deed. And it is revealed that Gryffindor came in last place, followed by Hufflepuff, then Ravenclaw, and Slytherin won, to the point where they even drop Slytherin banners down, and the Slytherin kids are all happy and cheering. They haven't really done much wrong this year. However, Dumbledore pulls a little bit of a fast one.
He is a sneaky son of a bitch.
Fucking Dumbledore, because Dumbledore last minute decides to award Harry, Hermione, and Ron each like 50 fucking points for different shit. Harry.
Oh no, Hermione and Ron get 50. Harry, of course, gets 60.
Oh, of course.
You know, yeah.
And that ties them with Slytherin. And then he pulls one more trick out of his asshole, and he goes, and to Neville Longbottom for, what does he say? Oh, standing up to your enemies is hard, but standing up to your friends is even harder. So 10 points to Neville Longbottom. So he gives them just enough points to get past Slytherin.
This guy was in his office the night before, and he asked someone for like the fucking points reports. He's like, "Let me see those real quick. Just give me a second."
Yeah.
This guy fucking calculated how to just get above Slytherin. Like that's that is sleazy if I've ever seen it. This guy is. I
would like to
instigating.
I would like to highlight how the point system in Hogwarts does not work, and I get why they abandoned it in these films very early on, and it's because Harry and Ron are awarded 5 points, a measly 5 points, for defeating a fucking troll.
Yeah.
11-year-olds taking down a gigantic mountain troll.
And in the second one, Hermione gets 10 points for answering a question in
No.
herbology.
And then they get, like I said, they get 5 points for defeating a literal fucking troll, Josh. And then they are deducted 50 points for being out a little late.
Each 100. They lost 150 points that night.
Yeah. Absolutely
So you know what?
ridiculous.
I think. Did Dumbledore can he see everything in this school happening? How did he know about Neville?
Maybe he had the Marauders map.
Does he have one?
No, there's only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't.
So
I don't know.
Yeah, how the fuck is he seeing any of this happen?
It's because none of this is fucking explained. Also, listen, fucking, sorry, my last, and then I'm done with all of my thoughts on this one, because we went over, as we do. But, for being out late, for their punishment to be sending them into the fucking dark forest is outlandish.
The detention structure of this school needs to be revised. This is crazy. Every time they have detention, it's them doing like bullshit work with the teachers that is either like
mind you, in the first movie, their detention is going into the dark forest, which is full of fucking violent, deathly creatures, and at
midnight,
and that's just for being out late. In the second one, Harry and Ron legitimately crash a fucking car into an important tree that had been on their grounds for decades and centuries, and his punishment is to help Gilderoy Lockhart sign his fan mail. There's no fucking consistency. But yeah, so I mean, I think really all of my thoughts are...
Mine are wrapped up.
Yeah, I wrote down that Argus Filch is psychotic, and yeah.
I like him so much more in the early ones than the later ones. Let me tell you that.
They make him a little more comedic in the later ones. In the early ones, he's like genuinely like terrifying, and it's hard. I know you haven't seen Game of Thrones, but he plays one of the most despicable, vile characters I've ever seen in a TV show on Game of Thrones.
Really?
So it's really weird looking back on him in this like children's film, and I'm like, oh, he's still psychotic even in this. He's also a Hot Fuzz alum.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He's the guy who like you can't understand, and owns all the guns. Oh, so I didn't mention. I'd mentioned the budget. It was made for $125 million. But it also maybe I did mention, but it made over $1 billion at the box office, which is massively impressive for a first film in a franchise. Like,
yeah, that's wild for 20 plus years ago.
Oh,
Insane.
I just want to highlight. One of my last notes was in that final scene when they're reading off the points and Slytherin is announced as the initial winner. They cut to a shot of Snape and he's clapping so fucking fast, but he has this like scowl on his face. It's so they never have him show an ounce of joy in these movies, and it's wonderful. Oh, I have one last question. Maybe you can answer it for me, and then we'll move on. If Harry is important to Voldemort and they need Harry to be alive, why do they try to kill him twice in this movie, both at the Quidditch match and at the end when he tries to choke him to death?
Yeah. Actually, I don't think I wrote a note about that, but I wanted to like.
Oh, I have the answer. It's because she didn't plan any of this out. Okay, shall we move on? Unless you have anything else to talk about.
No. No, we can go to the second one.
All right, guys. After our short little commercial break, we are now moving on to Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, released back in 2002, a measly 1 year after the original Sorcerer's Stone, and has a lower budget, surprisingly. Not sure if you were aware of this, but it had $25 million less. Only had $100 million as opposed to 125 mil, like we said for the first movie. It also made less at the box office, having only made 882 mil, which is still a lot of money. That's still a really good return on investment for those producers. But shocking that you make a movie that has that kind of success, made over $1 billion, and you cut the budget pretty significantly.
I don't think it suffered, to be honest. Like it feels like it has
everything looks better.
Like it doesn't have a Gringotts scene. Maybe that's what
Gringotts could not have been that expensive. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, but dude, you're gonna tell me Gringotts as a set costs more than the Chamber?
No, I know.
It's
right?
shocking. It's shocking. But yeah, so not only was this released a year after the first film, but also the film takes place 1 year after the events of the first film. We kind of move in on Harry as he is now 1 year older. He's looking through some books, some picture books, some memories, kind of getting that nostalgia that we talked about. Pictures of him and his friends, pictures of his parents. One thing that I've always loved in the Harry Potter films is how the pictures are moving. Like they're always like essentially GIFs. Like they're always moving pictures and they're never stagnant, which I always think is fun. I also wanted to say that the zoom in on the logo is excellent in this movie. It zooms in on the logo, it goes down into the clouds and kind of like zooms in on Harry in his room, and it's just glorious.
I'm trying to remember the zoom in on the first one. What does that just? Oh, that just fades. That just brightens up into him sleeping in his room.
Yes. Because it like zooms in on the baby Scar, and it like flashes light, and then you see him now as a boy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, how do you feel about this stinker of a movie?
So I don't think it's a stinker. A fair amount of people do, I think, actually. I don't know, guys. I really don't know how Jake actually feels about this movie. This guy's been like toying with me.
Yeah.
I don't know for how long. Who knows?
I'm a little rabble rouser.
Yeah.
I'm a little troublemaker, and this is a long con. This goes back years. I've been kind of tricking Josh and toying with him for a long time at this point. As he doesn't know my thoughts on this movie because when we first met, he probably thought I loved it. And over the years, he probably...
Yeah, we didn't talk about Harry Potter much, like when we first knew each other, I don't think.
I was right around the time Fantastic Beasts came out, so that probably has something to do with it. But no, yeah, I've been kind of toying with him over the years. But if Josh really did pay attention to me, and there's a difference between folks, between listening and hearing. And I think Josh was listening, but I don't think he was hearing me.
I thought I was hearing you, but I wasn't listening. I thought that's what it was. Aren't you paying attention more when you're listening?
Oh, did I get it backwards?
I think you might have.
Oh, well, all right, then swip that little analogy around.
Or I might just be dumb. I don't know.
I think we're both not smart. No, I'm just kidding. We're both really super smart boys. But no, when it comes to Chamber of Secrets, I've had a very complicated relationship with this movie. It is no kind of coincidence that I own Chamber of Secrets on DVD, and that's the only one I own. Because, like I said, I had Sorcerer's Stone, if you're a dumb American. I had that on VHS and just never got the copy. One of these days, I need to get the entire Blu-ray set. But, all right. Since the con has gone on long enough, do you want to...
I don't know what Jake had to get out of it, by the way. This, fucking... I think at this point, 3 or 4 years.
I'm a rabble-rouser. No. Would you like to know my thoughts on this movie as a whole?
Yeah, and I think we could be honest with the audience now.
We'll be honest. The con has ended. This movie's pretty good. I like this movie. I do have my criticisms with it. No, for the last couple of years, because don't take it personal. Because I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to say, Josh, I am someone who likes the Harry Potter movies. Josh is a Harry Potter fan. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So there's a little bit of a difference. I enjoy these movies, but maybe I'm a little more critical of them in areas maybe I shouldn't be. I don't know. But the whole reason the con started is because Harry Potter fans are some of the easiest people to fuck with.
So, guys, let me just say, I don't know why Jake... I swear, he only really chose Chamber of Secrets to, shit on the most, as if that was my favorite. I don't know why. That's not even, I think it's more in, the bottom half of my favorites of these movies.
Yeah.
Which is the funny part.
Well,
so I don't know why Jake chose Chamber of Secrets.
Maybe
it's the easiest for him to shit on. I don't know.
It's also in my bottom half of ranking these movies. But... And always has been, except for when I was a kid, because I really, really liked it as a kid. I just thought, I liked how it was a little bit darker than the first one, a little more edgy, a little scarier, especially the spiders. But no, as a whole, and we'll get into it right now, but we didn't mention this movie again. I mentioned it at the very, very beginning, but they brought back Christopher Columbus to direct the second film. And I wanted to go over this really quick. I'm not sure if you looked into it. Obviously, Christopher Columbus, most well known for doing the Home Alone films, the first two. So work with child actors before probably definitely helped. He also wrote the script for Gremlins, which is also cool. I'm a big Gremlins guy. I think both of those movies are a lot of fun. But I had looked into it, and there was actually a pretty decent short list of directors who were potential candidates to direct this movie. That includes Terry Gilliam, Jonathan Demme, Mike Newell, who Mike Newell would go on to later direct Goblet of Fire, Alan Parker, Wolfgang Peterson, Rob Reiner, Ivan Reitman, Tim Robbins, Brad Silberling, M. Night Shyamalan, and Peter Weir. And also...
Holy shit, Peter Weir?
Right? Crazy. And even I think M. Night Shyamalan was probably the one that shocked me the most, but I guess that's probably around the time right after the Sixth Sense success, so I guess I kind of understand it. But probably the biggest name, Steven Spielberg.
That sounds right. I don't think I knew that. But
Yeah.
that I can...
And I'm just picturing a world where Spielberg had directed this. Not that I really have problems with the direction or the look of this movie, but yeah, I don't know. It's a strange kind of parallel alternate universe to think of what would have a Harry Potter movie been like under Steven Spielberg, because he did have a lot of previous work with monsters in movies like Jaws and Jurassic Park, and also work with that sort of whimsical tone. And obviously,
And he produced Home Alone, right?
yeah, I believe he did.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
yeah. So they knew each other fairly well, but overall, I think Christopher Columbus did a really good job with this movie. I think he did a really good job with both too. Like, we praised the sets and cinematography in the first one. One thing that I didn't get to highlight that I am already kicking myself for not talking about during that segment, but my favorite shot in the first film, and probably a top 5 Harry Potter shot for me, is the shot when it pans up from them in the boat going to Hogwarts, and it's like just kind of pans up, and it's not a dolly, it cranes out, and it's this gorgeous shot over the water, and the boats just keep heading towards Hogwarts, and they all have torches, and just the color palette of the orange and blue, and just the magical, whimsical feel that you get while watching it. And it's kind of scary, but it's kind of cool, and I love all
And
of
it's
that.
like right when it pans up to the castle, it's like the peak of the track too.
Oh, the music complements it so well. Like you said, the music is climaxing just as the shot reaches it's wonderful. But yeah, so I've kind of talked about, obviously we got it out of the way. I do like this movie. I do, however, think it's noticeably weaker than the first one. And one thing that I want to get out of the way, me and Josh have varying different opinions on the length of this movie. I think it is entirely too long for the story that it tells, and I don't think you agree with that.
See, okay, yeah, I don't. No. So I can see where someone can say this movie doesn't need to be as long as it needs to be compared to the other ones. Like, there's no way this movie needs to be the longest. I have more of a problem with complimenting movies for being shorter.
Okay.
This movie is 9 minutes longer than the first one. I get the first one has setup to do and stuff like that, but it also handles a lot more simplistic of a story. So you kind of equal your playing field a little bit. So, and I honestly don't think 9 minutes is that big of a difference. Like, that just doesn't feel that much more to me. I think there's plenty of, like, minor to, like, somewhat noticeable plot holes in this movie, but this movie has a lot more to dig into. So I don't mind taking its time with, like, certain scenes, and, like, I don't know, its pacing doesn't feel off to me. It feels necessary to have, like, a slower burn, I think. Now, I know this is a children's book. Is it a children's book, or is it like
yeah.
Is there like a middle of, like, children and
young
adult? Like, is there like
I think it's classified as young adult, but I always found it to be more of a children's story, especially the first two.
The first two, but this feels like overall a young adult series. I think it's more geared towards them. Like, you read it as a kid, but I don't think kids would, like, if you're in elementary school and all these books came out, I don't know if you're really reading. You might be. I mean, I don't know. But,
I was.
Yeah, but you were older by the time the newer ones came out.
Yeah, but I was
like,
reading.
growing
I
up
was
with
reading
it.
the young book, or I was reading the early books as a youngster.
Yeah. So I don't know. Children's book just seems very like 5-6-year-old. That's what I think of children's book. So
I mean,
like,
you have a point there, because it does deal with dark themes. It does deal with death, and there is some scarier elements. I very distinctly remember watching specifically Chamber of Secrets a lot as a kid, and there was something to why I was drawn to it, like I mentioned, where it was a little darker, it was a little edgier, and it was scarier, and part of me was drawn to that. And I think I've talked on this podcast about, or maybe I haven't, but I wasn't the biggest fan of horror movies as a kid. I just was very scared of them, and I just had horrible nightmares, and it just wasn't a fun experience for me. And obviously, once I got into, like, middle school and started breaking into the genre more, I found more to have fun with, and ultimately now I enjoy getting scared by something. And it was something that was a real treat returning to this movie specifically, as opposed to the first one, to where, other than that scene in the dark forest with Quirrell in the first one, there isn't too much that's that terrifying or spooky, other than some tonal aspects. But in this one, there's some genuinely frightening stuff. I think the whole sequence with the spider is really scary. I think just the premise itself is quite terrifying, and we'll get into it more as we talk about the movie. But the basilisk, if you're anybody who's my friend knows, that if I have one deathly fear, it is snakes. So, yeah, didn't have fun with that one as a child, but yeah, well, let's get into my issues, because you made a point about how you don't feel like it's necessary to compliment a film for being shorter. And I don't agree with that. And I guess that's just something at this point in our friendship we'll have to get past in how we grade and judge movies, because I do think it's something to compliment when a film can tell an effective, engaging story and it be to a shorter length. I don't want to sound like I'm some hectic Wall Street businessman, but I do value my time. I do value my time. And, you know, I work late hours, and that I'm not saying that impacts my score of the film, but just to put you in my perspective, I work late hours. So for me to watch a movie after work, it does have to fall into a certain time range. And you factor in people going to work, and people who have children, people who have new relationships, who have, you know, a lot of different friends, and they're always seeing different friends. Everyone's in a different situation, but you value your time. And a movie like this, being its length, it restricts a lot of people from putting it on. And I do think there's plenty of other films that I think are better than this, that tell a more engaging story, that are just better made films all around, that are significantly shorter. You look at other blockbuster movies. Jaws is like 2 hours 15. Jurassic Park, a little over 2 hours. The first Matrix movie we discussed on this podcast, 2 hours. There's plenty of big blockbuster films that, and I'll be honest, I am way less forgiving of blockbuster films than I am of art films when it comes to length, because a blockbuster is entertainment. I want to have a good time. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy the story. I want to engage with the plot, but I don't want to be there for 3 hours, you know? And I get it when you say, like, this movie's only 9 minutes longer than the second one, or than the first one, but I think every minute does count. And again, you highlighted it. The first has way more to do with setting up. It has to introduce you to all of these characters. It has to introduce you to this new, engaging, magical world, set things up, and really just give a lot of backstory and history about these characters and this world to get you invested. I don't think this movie has that luxury. And I just don't feel like there's enough in the plot to warrant a 2 hour and 40-minute runtime.
So, so the beginning. The first one is longer in its, like, Dursley premise, right? Like, this one speeds its time up, so it doesn't dwell there.
Correct.
So you gotta like kind of look at what it does focus on, like, not kind of harping on too long. Like, yeah, I get it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it's not like every scene is drawn out. I could see maybe if they did like a as long, if not longer, intro that's not needed. But what, it's like 5 minutes maybe of him at the Dursleys until, like, the Weasleys rescue him, and then you get a nice little setup of, like, Ron's life. I think it's good to build that, so I don't think that is unnecessary, you know. And you know, a little debacle with getting there with Dobby kind of interfering. So, like, okay, I mean, we can kind of go into, like, the premise of this movie. Harry, going into a second year of school, immediately meets this house elf, Dobby, who kind of warns him about this plot happening at Hogwarts, and he doesn't want him to put himself in any danger. So he kind of implores him to not go to school at all. Obviously, Harry doesn't listen. So Dobby is constantly, like, kind of interfering in Harry's process of getting in there, and then his time at school, he's kind of making his life a living hell there, trying to, like, get him out of there. That's kind of Dobby's presence here. Now, I have some problems with the whole Dobby integration, where it doesn't make sense to me.
Don't you dare. Dobby is the best fucking character in this movie.
It just doesn't make sense to me. How is this guy so Dobby is the house elf of the Malfoys. We find that out later in the film. Do the Malfoys, like, not keep tabs on this guy? This guy escapes left and right.
Yeah.
I mean, he is gone. He's he's intersecting Harry's letters to make him like seem not like his friend, like he's not important to his friends, so he keeps all his letters. How is this guy getting the letters? I mean, I know the elves are like very powerful. They got like some next level magic.
Yeah, they have
is
some
better
magical.
than the wizards.
Yeah,
it's like more powerful than the wizards, I think, right?
I guess it depends on how J.K. Rowling wants to write that scene.
Yeah, I guess.
No, you're absolutely right, and the issues with Dobby go a little bit further. I think he's a fucking wonderful character in terms of like pure entertainment value. He's so much more charming and watchable and entertaining than a character like Jar Jar Binks in terms of like comparing to CGI characters. Also, didn't mention he looks fantastic for 2002. The animation and just the textures look excellent for 2002. And Harry interacting with what was essentially a stick with a tennis ball on the end, Daniel Radcliffe does a much better job in this movie, and it honestly pretty impressive. He's still a little stiff in certain scenes and during some dialogue delivery, but for his ability to work with a non-real actor that is a very real character in the movie is pretty impressive. But
it's crazy the age jump. Like it's only a year later.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a deep voice. Like they still kind of look the same, a little taller, but they just have these deep voices now. One
thing since having a niece and nephew that has just shocked me is just how much children change from week to week. Not just like year-long like time periods, but like week to week they are different people, and it's honestly baffling. But personal stories aside, I hate that Dobby does all of this, but then he also caves immediately. Like, he has no reason to divulge to Harry that he has the letters, that he's been stealing them. And he also immediately confesses to bewitching the bludger in the Quidditch game. Which that goes a little far. This guy, I don't know how much control he has. He tries to kill him.
I'm assuming. Yeah, like Harry like almost dies many times in this game. So I don't know. You're trying to keep him safe by almost killing him. It doesn't I don't know why. Do we know why Dobby cares this much about Harry?
I think from what he said in the film, it's just because what he did in the last film inspired a bunch of the house elves. Like, they see Harry as this messiah type figure. Like, he's kind of their, not savior, but he's this hero figure to them. But it really doesn't play into why Dobby's willing to go through all of this for Harry. Yeah. It doesn't. Maybe it's more thoroughly explained in the novels, but as far as the film goes, which we are judging here, it doesn't do it very well. And since we brought up the Quidditch scene, because it really kind of extends from my last criticism of the movie's length and its pacing is, and I've said this to you countless times, it hits too many of the same beats as the first film. And I have problems with that because I do think it hurts the pacing, and to where you're right, it is only 9 minutes long, but the scenes that we're given are just too familiar to me to warrant their inclusion in the movie, such as the Mandrake scene, the scene with Professor Pomfrey, I think her name is, where they, it's just supposed to be like a funny little cutesy scene where they pull, Neville faints from the screaming, they pull the little, I don't know, they look like beets or something out of it, and they're these little prosthetic creatures, and they start screaming, and all the kids, the scene serves no purpose. It has no, and whereas I can excuse scenes like that in the first film, because it has to build this world and you want to see, what would going to school in a wizard school look like? It makes more sense for the story. And also the stuff that they do in the first movie pays off later. The whole Wingardium
But the Mandrakes are used.
For what?
Right? They're don't they use the Mandrakes for the petrified kids to create that potion? I thought that was the point of them.
Okay, maybe, but
what I was telling Jake,
hold on. That's not explained in that scene. It's just used as a funny scene. If they would have explained, hey, this has these certain properties that could be helpful for this, okay, I can write that off and it's more acceptable. But to just have this scene and to, introduce all of this, it just feels like a waste of time. I think it goes on a little too long. Like, if it was like a minute, I could maybe find it serviceable.
2 minutes.
It's longer than 2 minutes. It's longer
Is
than
it
2.
really?
It's definitely longer than 2. I'm not saying it's like an 8-minute scene, but it definitely goes on for too long. It doesn't service the story at all. And I just feel like it doesn't need to be in the movie. And like where I was going with the point was in the first movie, scenes like the classroom scene with Wingardium Leviosa. Yeah, they have that scene to add in a little joke where the little Irish boy, he constantly, when he's trying to do spells, sets off an explosion. It's funny, it's cute, and it doesn't really have that much purpose in that moment. But then later on, when they're fighting the troll, Ron uses the Wingardium Leviosa spell, the only spell that he really knows to this point, and it catches the troll's club in the air, stopping him from killing Harry. So it adds purpose, you know. There's just not really a reason for it to be in this movie.
All right, so I have them. So for everyone listening, I have the movie up on Peacock just to kind of like see the timestamps. So it does take them a little long to get to Hogwarts. I'll give you that. It takes them a half hour to get to Hogwarts.
Too long.
The Mandrake scene is less than 2 minutes.
Oh. Well,
It's
then
less than 2 minutes.
It feels like more. All right, the length is fine, but again, it's 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. I don't need in the movie. And an even worse, and people may give me shit for this because I think on a technical level it looks better than the first movie. I don't think the Quidditch scene serves a purpose in this movie.
I don't know if that was just for like Dobby's introduction of like the bludger and just more ways to like kind of get Harry out of there. I don't know if that was like strictly on purpose. I mean,
yeah, but if you remove that scene, then our whole criticism of why is Dobby essentially trying to kill Harry if he's trying to save him, that criticism goes away because that scene's not in the movie.
It does, but like, I mean, I know why the movie has it in there. So like, it's not like a pointless scene that doesn't serve later.
It's so they can sell the Quidditch video game. It doesn't need to be in the movie. In the first film, again, it makes sense because it's showcasing Harry's skill as a broom rider. That the whole point is, you know, the scenes bleed into each other. He uses his scene to do a good deed to save Neville's little device that he was gifted from Draco because he takes it in the first movie and just so happens to be shown to be an amazing seeker in that moment. McGonagall catches him and it leads to him being the Quidditch person, and he goes and plays Quidditch, and it all adds up. In this movie, they were like, oh, you guys liked the Quidditch scene in the first one, it's fun, it's like cool to see the wizard sport, well, let's just do that again. And it looks better. Okay. I'll give you that, it looks better, but it adds. And that scene I know is long. That scene is a long scene, the Quidditch one.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm not gonna go into the third one, we'll wait till next episode, but I'm just gonna I'll just wait.
We could bring that up real quick, and I'll defend it already. That scene is short, and it looks awesome, and it also has way more purpose in the movie.
So your issue is not that. No. Okay, because both things come later. Just because maybe you don't like Dobby's, interference as much, but like that's part of it. Like that serves a purpose to the story.
But it makes the story worse.
But you can have the Dementors come at another time. It doesn't have to be the Quidditch scene. See, that seemed from your mindset, it almost seems like that was just a ploy to put Quidditch in the movie to then, build on that sport.
Because it plays out, Josh, it plays out the same exact way as the first one. The Slytherin...
I'm talking about the third one.
No, I understand, but I'm saying in terms of why I'm okay with it in the third film and not the second, is in the second film, it follows a lot of the same beats. It still looks bad. It looks better than the first movie, but it still looks bad. It still looks very cartoonish. The third one, A, looks better. B, way shorter of a scene. C, impacts the plot and isn't more important to the plot and doesn't make the story worse.
So you wouldn't have a problem if Quidditch was in the second one. It was how it was kind of like filmed and
I think it doesn't look great, and yeah, I also don't. I think, like I said, I think it makes the story a little dumber because as we've added, it doesn't make sense that Dobby would do something like that drastic. It makes sense trying to keep him away from Hogwarts or to try to get him expelled or something, but to try to fucking kill him, it just doesn't. The whole thing is he doesn't want Harry to die at school. There's a plot. There's the whole Chamber of Secrets. Which
I'm talking about I seem like I love this Quidditch scene. It's not like my favorite scene.
When you're wondering why I don't hold this film in the same regard as I do the first, or why I think it's a weaker one, those are, or where it's gonna hurt in terms of how I rate it score wise. Those are scenes. I think they're unimportant to the story, and if those scenes were in the movie and it was a 2-hour film, it would be okay. But because they add to a film that's already very, very long, they just seem redundant and unimportant. And again, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes long. And I know.
What about to build on Malfoy being the new Seeker? You know, what's wrong
I
with
don't no. There's what is the point of that? What is the point of Malfoy being included in any of this?
Because the scene of them getting the broomstick is where they introduced Mudblood. That's where they introduced the
I love that J.K. Rowling even came up with a racial slur for her wizarding world. It's not bad. It's already one thing. She didn't include any black characters, and didn't include any Jewish characters except for one Jewish student named Andrew Feldstein, which is insane. But
what do you mean? There's some. There's Dean.
Dean's not Jewish.
No, you said there's no black characters.
Oh.
There's Dean. There's the announcer for the game.
Yeah, have you ever watched Community?
No.
Oh, that actor comes back as a really funny character in Community.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I feel bad. In the first film, I thought that actor was an actress. I thought it was a girl, and it was just a kid with a really high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
That aside, going into, I guess more, I want to highlight positives of this, but I kind of just want to get my negatives on the table first.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
But when it comes to the plot of this movie, and this is something that I also know that I disagree with you heavily, and I'm going to bring up Ross again because I disagree with Ross. And guys, we are going to have Ross on this at some point, and I can't wait. It's going to be fun. We'll get him a mic. I'll buy a cheap mic and we'll give it to him. He doesn't have a microphone as of right now, but I think it'd be fun. Wow, that was a loud crack of thunder. If the folks at home are listening,
I definitely heard that.
It is a storming out here, but maybe it'll add to the atmosphere.
I could go for a storm. It's so sunny here.
I love a good storm. But in terms of Chamber of Secrets, one thing that I know that I disagree heavily on with you is that you feel like this is a really good mystery, that it is so much of a better setup mystery than the first film, and I very much disagree. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on why it works for you better.
All right, so let me just get what you just said better. You think the mystery is handled better in the first one?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm excited to hear that. But okay, so what do I like about the mystery?
Yeah, what is it about that is so compelling about, I guess, this film's story and the mystery that works for you, that you think it's better than the first?
So, okay, I think there's layers to it, okay? So, I know you hate the diary. I like the diary. There's, like, subtle things that you get throughout this movie, like, Lucius putting, like, he first puts the diary in Ginny's cauldron, which I don't like because Harry sees this happen.
Yeah, okay.
And he doesn't say shit. That bothers me. I'm talking about just the story though. If they just had Harry not see that, it would be better.
Okay.
Like that's fine. No, so you have that. You have these scenes of, now granted, I said this movie does have a lot of convenience in it. So scenes I'm gonna talk about, it's not a problem with the story, like the mystery levels of the story. So like the scenes where they find all the petrified victims, and you have no idea. Okay, we didn't really talk about the summary of this movie. So basically, there's this plot happening that there's these kind of like hidden messages kind of throughout the school of this chamber being open. No one knows what the Chamber of Secrets is, but they're kind of giving you hints of is the first note the enemy of the air, beware kind of thing. So they're kind of putting these clues out that there's this evil lurking, and they're pretty much giving warnings to whoever's the enemy of like Slytherin, beware. So I think those like slow scenes of them kind of like discovering the victims and kind of layering that question of, is this kind of like Harry's doing? Is he connected to it? Now we kind of know that it's not, but in terms of like the characters, it sets up a nice question of like, is our character more involved with Slytherin or kind of has more of a relation to Slytherin? So I like that it builds this complexity to Harry, more so that he's not just a Gryffindor. He has these characteristics of Slytherin as well. But it plays out like a murder mystery. Like it's very suspenseful.
Except there's no murders.
No. Yeah, it's not. So I said it plays out like a murder mystery. So
Yeah.
it doesn't like, so it has like these creepy scenes that, just keep you kind of like, I don't know. Well, it keeps me involved in like the story. I'm not just like, I don't know. I'm trying to look at my notes here because I'm trying to like.
No, that's fair. I'm keeping
keep
it all
like,
on lock because I know how to rebuttal every single thing you're saying. But we'll.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. First off, I agree that the idea of the Chamber of Secrets is a great mystery. However, that mystery is pretty fucking well alleviated rather quickly because the second they hear about it, in pretty much the next scene, they flat out just ask Professor McGonagall what the Chamber of Secrets is. And instead of saying, oh, I can't tell you, or oh, we don't talk about it, or oh, nobody really knows, she flat out just tells them exactly what the Chamber of Secrets is. Down to the minute detail that there's even a monster inside of it. So that mystery's pretty much gone. That's kind of out the window, right?
Yeah, sure.
It throws out any layer of what could the chamber be, what's inside of it. That's gone. I mean, you could maybe say, oh, they build it up like the monster, because you're led to believe that the giant spider Aragog, which you find out is Hagrid's pet, is what a lot of people thought was the monster from the chamber. And Josh didn't really mention it, but it's revealed that the monster was taught to be racist by Salazar Slytherin and kill any wizards who were of impure blood, meaning they were not inherently from a magical bloodline. So we get, more of that racism doubling down. So it's a big racist, what you assume to be spider, but it's obviously revealed to be a snake, which could be cool. And it makes sense. Salazar Slytherin, their icon is a snake. So it's also off the bat not that great of a mystery, but fine. I'll give you that. But
Tom Riddle. There's another layer. And we don't know until the very end. So there's that kind of looming over too. Like there's a lot of questions that aren't answered. Yeah, okay, McGonagall tells you a little bit about the history of the chamber. That doesn't kind of like
she tells you
negate
exactly what it is.
Okay. She doesn't tell you who opened it. She just tells you that it was opened 50 years ago. So now you're wondering who opened it, who is next in line to be, who is the heir of Slytherin.
Oh, geez.
Like, you don't know.
50 years ago? You mean right around the time that Voldemort was in school? Gee golly, who could it be?
But you don't know. All right. This guy.
I'm just saying I don't find it to be as good of a mystery as you because...
Do they know that Voldemort was in school then? At this point? Do they know this? They don't.
No, our main characters do not, but also the problem that I also have with the Chamber of Secrets is I'm supposed to be led to believe that in the 50 years since it's been opened, that Albus Dumbledore, this supposed greatest wizard who's ever wizard, has not been able to find the location of it.
Yeah.
I'm also supposed to believe that nobody ever fucking asked Moaning Myrtle how she died, which would give a pretty fucking good key to where... Oh, there also happens to be a little snaky icon on the bathroom sink where the thing leads to the chamber. So that's obscure. I just don't find it to be that good of a mystery. Like, you get some good stuff, I agree, with Tom Riddle. I'm not saying all of it is bad. I do think the question of who Tom Riddle is, that's an interesting setup, but it's completely fucking ruined by one of the, if not the dumbest scene in this entire franchise, where you realize that the name Voldemort, the name that is so dark that it should not be said out loud, Voldemort, is because in Tom Riddle's journal, he wrote his full name and wrote, I am Tom Marvolo Riddle.
No, it was just his name. It was just his name. And then he switched the letters to...
Oh, right. I'm sorry. His Tom Marvolo Riddle, and he rearranges the letters to say, I am Lord Voldemort. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The movie might lose like half a point just for that. Oh, but I had a funny tidbit. I'm sure as a Potter fan you might have heard this, but so obviously to make it link up in all other languages, because it's a visual, it's not spoken, and he does it again moving the letters, it's a visual effect. What I think is funny is that in the French version of it, his name is Tom Elvis Riddle, which
Really?
which turns into Je suis Lord Voldemort.
I wish, like, okay, I guess you can't
That's
remove
dumb.
the I, because I'm like, what if you just took out the I am? Would that be better? That
Am
he just, like, switched
Voldemort?
his- no, like you took that out and it just like spelled out Lord Voldemort.
No,
Like I wish you could.
It's all there, buddy, and it's really, really fucking.
No,
stupid.
I'm saying I wish they could have just removed those 3 letters and just came up with a different name.
I
Like-
wish that it wasn't so stupid, but here we are. So even the cool Tom Riddle that's set up is pretty stupid in the end. And honestly,
No. You can't use that one thing. The one thing.
that is
Just to-
stupid. No, I gave you credit. I said the riddle of Tom Riddle is pretty is pretty good. It's an interesting setup, and the mystery is cool.
The riddle of Tom mystery.
But also, Josh, there's also just some other really dumb shit in this movie, because you find out that basically,
Guys, this is not a perfect movie. I must tell you.
No, but
and just because I say there's a mystery to it does not mean I think this is an expertly done, well thought out, all the way through mystery. I said there are a lot of layers to this movie that work better for me.
Yeah.
There's plot holes within these mysteries that don't make sense. Like you said, Albus Dumbledore or no one else. I get they wouldn't be able to open it because no one speaks Parseltongue.
Okay.
So that's another thing. Harry can speak Parseltongue. That's another layer that you're like introduced to
In the first movie.
You don't, huh?
You're introduced to that in the first movie.
No.
He speaks to a snake.
Yes, but he doesn't speak a different language. He's just talking to him.
He does, but they just changed
I'm
up the
saying
way
you
it
don't-
sounds in this one.
He's speaking English to the snake.
Yeah, but like that's how he hears it in
So-
his head. To everyone else,
No,
it
I
would have
know
sounded
that.
like Parseltongue.
It doesn't count in the first movie because the audience does not know that. So
Okay, fair.
So you have it be like a different language. In the first one, I just assume because he's a wizard, they just all have that ability to talk to snakes.
That's what Harry
In their
also
language.
thought.
Exactly. But in the second one, you realize, oh, he has this ability. Voldemort also had this ability. So you're getting this little like introduction of connection between the two, which makes you wonder, what is this relation? That is another layer that I think works really well as it builds throughout the series. So it gives you a lot of good things to like ponder on. There are things that don't make sense. Now, I don't know how you would have someone open the chamber when no one else can speak it, but I think it's a little convenient that Moaning Myrtle just kind of occupies this bathroom that no one else goes into ever, so they can do their little like
Guess how old the actress for Moaning Myrtle was?
in chamber?
Yeah.
30.
37.
37. Wow. Almost 40?
Moaning Myrtle's a fun character. She's a little annoying.
Really?
A little annoying, but
Yeah, it gets on my nerves.
a little bit, yeah. She's got that fucking screech.
And you don't know overall, you don't know who's behind these messages on the wall. So like, there's just different components that
let's fucking get into that, because that's another fucking
Okay.
problem I have. And you know what?
All right, cool.
You. So me and Josh were debating this a little bit over text. I think yesterday.
Yeah.
I even brought my phone in the shower with me because I was getting that's how important the con was to me, to making Josh think I hate this movie. And it does sound like we'll get into positives very soon, but in terms of negatives, so Josh is correct. You are part of the mystery. You are led to believe that a student is going around and marking the walls with blood and writing these cryptic things like heir to what is it? Whatever that saying is, I can't remember. Heir to the Slayer.
Enemies of the air beware.
Enemies of the air beware. Right. So you get a couple of those scenes, and each time you find like a petrified character, and multiple characters get petrified, including Filch's cat, Hermione, which takes her out of a large portion of the film. So they don't have Hermione to rely on this
Which
time.
she has a note in her hand, and they don't discover that. Okay, there's
Another
little.
stupid. Are you starting to see why this isn't that good of a movie?
No,
Oh, Josh.
no. These things do like they add up to lessening like why this movie. Listen, I mean, I'll go into my rating at the end, but I don't have this movie at like a. I'll just spoiler alert. I don't have this at like a 9 out of 10. You know, it's
No. I'm giving you a hard time, partially because I find it amusing, but
oh yeah, I'm sure this is good entertainment.
I'm having a good time, and I hope people listening are having a good time too. But no, one of the issues I have is so you find out that the student who's been putting these markings, who's been doing all of this, who opened the chamber, is Ginny Weasley, Ron's little sister. And that reveal is so underwhelming and lackadaisically boring. And you know what I compare it to, Josh? Because this is a film that I know you criticize, and I know you criticize this element very heavily.
Tell me.
Spoiler alert, guys, for Scream 3. Part of the issue with the reveal of the killer in that movie is that mine and Josh both feel that killer has not enough screen time in the film with the main characters. Next to none in that movie. Mm-hmm. Same thing in this fucking movie. Because Ginny is such a small, tiny little fragment of this film. And so for it to be her that's been conducting all of these horrifying things, who opened the Chamber of Secrets, is such an underwhelming, boring letdown of a reveal. Boom.
That's fair.
Mic drop.
Hey, that's fair. Listen, I'm not gonna.
You agree?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't really think about it, but
So that's gotta hurt the script. The story is just it doesn't land. It doesn't land.
No. You know what? No, hold on. Back up. I'm not going to compare it to Scream 3 at all. No.
I had you.
No, I'm not going to. That doesn't work. That criticism doesn't work. That comparison doesn't work. Is it underwhelming? I'm fine if you think it is. Is it a detriment to the story? No, it's not, because this is not Ginny. No, this is not like, she's obviously being possessed, so that right there already eliminates your comparison to Scream. Scream is them like willingly doing this, like they're the antagonist that you don't see ever, like they're an important part. No, but you get Tom Riddle, so you get that more than Ginny, who is the actual culprit. Mm-hmm. So him using Ginny, that's fine.
You know what would have been? You know what would have been better? If it was Hermione.
It just, I don't know how you would have worked it.
What do you mean?
Well, like,
because
I don't know.
You do see Ginny in the movie, and she is seemingly fine. So it seems like it was a source of sort of mind control in a sense. And I think
the trio, it would have been a little,
because I know where you're going with that, like the chemistry and the fun of seeing the three kids, but Hermione gets petrified rather early on in the film and is taken out of a large portion of this movie.
Yes, but I don't think it would work, because there's still plenty of moments where they do this like digging together. They discover these petrified bodies together. If she's taken out that soon, it kind of raises suspicions.
No, she wouldn't be taken out. She'd be doing all of this in secrecy.
They're never like separated. That's the thing. That's my problem.
You can write in ways to separate them. I think that's something that's easily manageable. And it also, even more thinking about this, because this just kind of came to me while we were talking about this in terms of like why it would be better if it were Hermione. If it were Hermione, it would work better with the themes of the movie and the overall backstory of Salazar Slytherin thinking that impure wizards shouldn't go to Hogwarts, creating the basilisk to kill non-pure wizards, and Hermione being called a mudblood in the film, and her being sort of the face in this movie of impure wizards because neither of her parents have magical abilities. I think that would have worked even better thematically with the movie.
Maybe it was Ginny because she was one of the few purebloods.
I don't think, are the Weasleys pureblood?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're treated like they're not. So.
No, they say it.
Oh, okay.
Lucius says it to him when he's having that little scuffle with Arthur in the beginning.
Gotcha.
And that's why they're seen as such a disgrace, because they affiliate with like half-bloods and mudbloods, stuff like that.
Yeah. But no,
And
yeah, sorry.
no, I was gonna say, and someone else says it. You know, they say something like for purebloods or something like that, or you would never think that they're purebloods or something. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So they're just like the poor wizard family.
Yeah.
Which I do like. I'll give you the points. I do like seeing their house at the beginning, and it's got such a fun, creative, wacky production design, and I love.
It makes no sense why they're poor. Why does magic not exist to like just? I don't know. Can you not help your financial situation by magic, or just why do you even need? Why do you need money?
I mean,
you could just kind of like.
I think it definitely helps to be a poor wizard as opposed to a poor human, like for sure.
But does money really help like a wizard? I mean, you have magic.
Dude,
so
yeah. Did magic help Harry buy the entire cart in the first movie?
But you can conjure food up. I'm sure there's spells for that. You can't. You have these pots and pans cleaning themselves.
They
Can't you, like...
They don't do it in the movies. Conjure up food. So wait, no, they do.
I know.
They do because he conjures up the whole feast in
Yeah.
the first movie. Fuck. All right, you got me. You're right, Josh. These are worse than I thought.
All right, I'm talking about the Weasleys in the whole series. All
right, let's get into some positives because oh my gosh,
Yeah.
guys, I apologize. I closed my window and the rain and thunder is crazy.
Dude, I'm jealous.
Nah, it's okay. One thing that I wanted to highlight in terms of the positives is the VFX do look better. Obviously, it's a year later, so it does look a little bit better. Like I highlighted, Dobby looks amazing. But then you get into how amazing the prosthetic effects are in this film, even better than the first movie. But whether it's the incredibly lifelike Fawkes, which I read a fact that Richard Harris, when he first walked on set, thought it was a real bird because it looked so real. And honestly, while watching the movie, there was a couple times where I too thought it looked like a real bird.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The basilisk is one of the best looking movie monsters I have ever seen in a film. It truly, there's only one word to describe it. It's timeless. Like 100 years from now, if we haven't nuked the earth by then, and people are still watching Chamber of Secrets, they'll look back on this movie and just be amazed at how good the basilisk looks. And that entire sequence is incredible.
Agreed. Hey, it's good to hear some positives. I feel like this whole part of the episode has just been me talking about positives.
No, it's been negatives. Me pointing out script flaws and you denying it.
Yeah, actually giving you good reasons why some of your fucking bullet points don't work.
No, I feel like at the very least all of my points are valid. It's just how much does it affect your experience with the movie. I don't think I've said anything
a good amount are valid. No. Nothing entirely unreasonable. Just some stuff I just disagreed with it being like a legit flaw.
That's where it comes down to like how important some elements are for you. Like one thing that I did want to highlight about this movie is I didn't notice the use of music being as overbearing as the first one. I think maybe the themes and how they were used were just spaced out a little better. And I got to talk about it. It is a little bit of a negative. I know I already pointed it out, but Fawkes' theme is incredible. But through looking through trivia, I thought it did sound familiar, and it's probably because just like a month or two ago, I did watch the Indiana Jones original trilogy back to back to back. But Fawkes' theme is apparently very similar in its orchestration to the theme in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And this is where it breaks your heart a little bit because the scenes where they're used in is almost the exact same as the theme in the movie is when Fawkes' tears heal the poison that has infected Harry. And in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, it's the scene when they use the water from the Grail to bring back the father. So it's like the exact same scene.
That's really unfortunate. That pisses me off so much. Whatever.
Yeah.
I gotta listen to that because I'm curious to hear the similarities because that was baffling when you said that.
I did earlier before listening to before we started recording the podcast, and it is eerily similar, and it sucks, but again, it's just what I pointed out when discussing the first film, where I think a lot of John Williams' music maybe sounds a little similar and is a little repetitive, not in a terrible way. He, again, one of the greatest composers of all time. Many of his themes iconic, memorable, great. It's just sometimes you notice he uses some of the same instruments in a similar way, and it just kind of overlaps a little bit. But it's not a huge negative. But yeah, so okay, I've talked about my negatives for the movie. Is there anything that I've mentioned that you feel like is sort of a detriment to the overall film in terms of how you
Yeah.
would rate it?
Yeah. So, something that we talked about, kind of like the overlooks of like the professors and Dumbledore with like the chamber, maybe. How about Gilderoy? How does this guy, A, get the job? How does it? So Gilderoy is the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. He is an author of like all these books. Pretty much he's very pompous. So all these books
Yeah.
kind of just like talk about his stories, quote unquote, his stories about like all these great things he's done as like a wizard. We find out that he's a fraud, and you kind of see that throughout the movie that he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. All his classes are filled with him like giving pop quizzes about his personality and stuff like that, that's an extended scene that I wish was not in there. But
There's one
Jake said-
extended scene in this movie that I do think is good. One.
can you say it?
Yeah. Oh, of course. It's right before the dueling scene between Harry and Draco. And it's Harry in the original film. It just starts and Harry, they're starting the class, and Gilderoy brings in Snape, and they do a little demonstration, and then Harry and Draco have this back and forth, which I want to talk about that scene in a second. But the positive that I like about it is right before that scene in the extended version, they have a scene where Harry talks to a Hufflepuff student. And one of my biggest issues with all the Harry Potter films is we only really ever focus on Gryffindor, sometimes Slytherin, and Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw kind of get sidelined. Like, why even have four houses if you're not going to really utilize it? So it's a cool scene where he's introduced to this new character, and he's not important to the film really, but he has this cool little interaction. He introduces himself. He's like, "Oh, I'm this kid from Hufflepuff." They seem friendly towards each other. But yeah, right after Harry talks to the snake, everyone thinks that he's telling and commanding the snake to try to attack that student. So I just like that you get that little exchange beforehand where Harry does meet that student, and it adds a little bit more context to that scene where everyone thinks he's commanding the snake. But so that was the one extended scene where I was like, okay, that does actually add a little bit to the overall context of the scene itself. But yeah.
To go off that scene, Snape then kind of gets rid of the snake. He just does a spell to like
It like incinerates it.
yeah, exactly. Why the hell doesn't he just do that as soon as the snake like looks like he's getting commanded to attack?
I don't know. Everybody's just fucking standing there watching. I guess everyone, even Snape, is just in awe of him being able to speak parcel tongue, especially because of the context we're given about what happens when you can speak parcel tongue. But no, I have an issue, and as a kid, I loved this scene because it's just Draco and Harry dueling. But then I realized, again, more of my problem with the magic in these movies, and I know for a fact this is different in the books because the spells actually do something different, but the spells that they cast at each other, they don't do anything different. They just knock each other in the air, but they're completely different pronounced spells. Now, I know in the book, when Harry casts the spell on Draco, I think it's called like rectum sempra or something. When Malfoy hits the ground, he begins busting into laughter because it's like a tickling spell. But they don't do that in the movie, so all you see is just also, you want to talk about the continuity in these movies? The spell that Snape casts is Expelliarmus, which sends Gilderoy Lockhart flying in the air. In every subsequent movie, Expelliarmus is used very, very consistently, and it's always used as a disarming spell that knocks the person's wand out of their hand. It's the spell that Harry casts every time he fights Voldemort when their stupid wands link or whatever. But the magic, again, boring. Even when Harry uses the spell in the forest to cast away the spider, and it sounds cool, all it does is send the spider flying. All the magic is so similar and repetitive. It's frustrating.
Yeah, I agree. So when Snape casts Expelliarmus, the wand does fly out of his hand, but he lands with it in his hand. So that's just like a continuity error in like the editing, I think. But yeah, I don't know why, like, Expelliarmus was always confusing. I don't know if that's just like because Gilderoy's like such a like an experienced wizard. Maybe that's why he like I don't know got flown in the air. But yeah,
I don't know.
Draco and Harry's different spells. It just makes them do like a different kind of flip in the air.
It's dumb. It's dumb.
I don't know how you put so much attention into every visual in this movie, but you just don't really capitalize on the creativity of these spells. And
they don't do that.
It's kind of it's kind of like in there a little bit in the books, but like they don't even do the bare minimum of that.
No, I mean J.K. Rowling's magic in general is not great, and they do a worse version of it in the movies, unfortunately. But yeah, like to go even further with that, this movie is very fine-tuned in terms of a lot of details, like the production design, the costume design, the set design, and everything. It looks all great, like we highlighted, but then you get really weird little technical issues that really do bug me. And one is using Robbie Coltrane, who voices grown-up Hagrid, when they do the flashback to the 1940s when Voldemort or Tom Riddle is in school, and they show a scene with Hagrid. They cast a younger actor, put him in the scene, but they dub over his voice with our Hagrid's voice. And so you have like this old-ass, ruggedy sounding man voicing what's supposed to be a teenager. And it takes me out of it. It reminds me really weirdly of in one of the, I think it's Insidious Chapter 2, they cast a young actress in the flashback opening scene of Lin Shaye's character, and it's like this young 25-year-old looking blonde woman, and they dub her voice over with old-ass Lin Shaye's voice. And it's just really disorienting. And for a movie, again, $100 million budget, and not really having any of those issues in the first film, it was really distracting and really
it's weird that like it's weird when they do it because they don't do they have no problem recasting other people to be younger versions.
Yeah.
And they don't do any dubbing then. So yeah, it was very
odd choice.
Because they say his name, so you don't. It's not like you need his voice to make a connection. So yeah, that's strange.
It was a weird creative decision that just kind of took me out of the scene.
But to go back to what I was originally talking about with one of my issues with, I like Gilderoy in this movie. I just don't like how plausible him being in that school. Why is he taking that job? He's like an accomplished author, so I don't really know why. I don't know why he's there. I don't know if that's just. I really don't know. But how is he there? Because immediately, like in the beginning, McGonagall gives him these looks of like she knows he's fake. Like she's not fooled by him. Even Dumbledore like gives him that like those like eyes where those like doubtful eyes that he gives sometimes.
It makes no fucking sense.
So why does he get the job? That's like a big problem I have with this. That just annoys me. I just don't get it.
No, and in none of the movies does it make sense for any of the defense against the dark arts teachers that Dumbledore chooses. And again, stop telling me that Dumbledore is this super powerful, wise, older wizard, which in the performance you definitely get, but then you just get dumb shit like this. Dumbledore didn't know where to find the Chamber of Secrets. It's in his fucking school. Also, I'm sorry, if there is a giant monster going around petrifying your students, close the fucking school. Close the fucking school.
Yeah, but also, they know that Gilderoy's fake, but they assign him to go to the chamber and solve it. And I'm like, dude, this guy is not gonna. You need to do it. Why are we
baffling?
So like, yeah, so that does annoy me.
It's not even like I like the performance. Like Kenneth Branagh is really great. Casting like this Shakespearean theatrical actor in this role was great. I had no problem with the performances. And in terms of performances, we talked about it. The kids pretty much get better every film. They get more comfortable. The adults, endlessly great. And the performances are never really a problem in the movie. Again, other than some stiff wooden dialogue delivery when it comes to some of the kids. But no, as a whole, the performances are great. But yeah, they just have these. And again, it just that alone, Josh, like this plot is, and that's why I can't give it credit for when someone not naming names tries telling me that the mystery and the plot is better in this movie, because I think it's significantly worse. I think it's dumber, in the first film, I'm never really questioning the logic or the logistics. And most of the time when I do have questions, it's because of issues that are brought up later in the movies. Like when we say, oh, well, why are they trying to choke Harry to death if they need Harry in later films? So that sort of stuff isn't as much of a problem in that first one. And this movie has that too, with the whole diary, like what we learn in later films. I won't spoil them yet, but what we learn about the diaries, all of the decisions that Dumbledore makes when it comes to who he hires as Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers make no fucking sense, and he's constantly getting bamboozled. It's outrageous, and I don't know. In this one, I just feel it so much more. Maybe it's because of the length.
So I don't. I think those are two different things, though. You talked about some of your issues with like the mystery, and I get like you answer some of the questions, but I think there's a lot more that I proposed that like just that work nicely. I don't think the teachers making questionable decisions is the same thing as saying this doesn't have a good layer of mystery. I think those are just like different script choices that
the layer
separate.
of mystery for me is ruined because the way in which the mystery is unraveled is in too quick of a succession, and there's not enough payoff. I'm told too early on what the chamber is, what it holds. Revealing that there's a monster loose is pretty crazy. I also find it
But they
kind of
don't give
weird.
you everything. They don't tell you what it is. They just say a monster. That could be literally anything. So
You
it's
have
not
two
like they're-
options. It's a snake, which they're heavily hinting at, or it's a spider, which they're heavily hinting at. And you know.
How is it only those two? I
And
don't get
also,
it.
speaking of Aragog the spider, why the fuck would Hagrid send them to go see that spider?
Yeah, that didn't make sense. And you know what? If you want to send them, fine. How about a fucking pep talk?
Give
to
them a warning.
The Spider family. Yeah, tell Aragog, hey, listen, these guys are with me. You wouldn't eat me, so don't eat them.
Don't eat them.
There's no, yeah,
Outrageous. Outrageous.
But the first one is not like also without. The first one's like a lot more simple. So there's less things to maybe nitpick. But
Sometimes
even the
simpler
things-
is better.
Yes, but I'm saying even the things that they do there's still problems with. So it's not like just
I
because
think
it does less doesn't mean there's not problems. Like
the
we said.
mystery of the Philosopher's Stone, I think, is handled better than the mystery of the Chamber of Secrets. Because
just because they don't talk about it.
they don't divulge it nearly as quickly as they do in this movie. Like I said, it's either the following scene or the scene after that where they flat out ask McGonagall what the chamber is, and she tells them the whole story, who created it, what it is, and what's down there. And you know that something. I also find it incredibly stupid, and I didn't bring it up, but so I think I was about to go into it earlier, where you find out that when the snake looks at you, when the basilisk looks at you, you die. But because, again, and this is where I say this is a kids movie, none of the kids do die. The only murder that has ever been conducted by the snake is, you find out, Moaning Myrtle. But the issue I have is they just conveniently find ways in this movie to not have the kids look at the snake, because they want you to have a little bit of threat where they're getting petrified. And so they find kind of weird little ways around it, like, oh, Colin looked at it through his camera, and Hermione saw it in the reflection of her little hand mirror, and I forget how. Oh, the cat saw it in the reflection of the water. So they find all these little ways around having these students have actual, an actual death, which I get you don't want to kill kids, but it feels like you're just teasing me a little bit. It's like you're trying to be like, oh, there's a threat, but not really. If there's a threat, close the school. If there's not, then what are we doing?
I guess that's preference. I don't mind the little ways of like seeing the snake through like different lenses, I guess.
Yeah.
I also don't mind the petrifying thing. I think that actually is pretty creepy that they add to it. Sure, murdering would be good. Or not good. Murdering
For the
would
story,
like kind
yeah.
of like it would aid the creepiness of it. But I think the petrifying actually does a really nice job of setting
It's
that mood
not
and tone.
bad. It just feels a little childlike, which, okay, they again,
There's
child books.
again, yeah, those are convenient ways that kind of prevent you from having to kill them. Sure, yeah. I said there's convenience in this
Yeah.
movie. I don't know.
But in terms of like positives, I talked about the basilisk scene. I think the entire set of the chamber looks incredible. One thing we didn't really know in the production design of this movie is a lot more attention to the color green. Obviously, the case is green. The cover of the book has green in it, so they tried to mimic that in the production design through clothing and set dressing. And it
Does
adds
the
a
second book have green?
I believe
Does it have
so.
that much green?
Not as much.
Really
not as much as
just the
Half-Blood
fourth and the
Prince. No, the
I thought it
fourth.
was just like the fourth and the sixth have. Well, I know the sixth has a lot of green.
Am I just
the fourth has like a
misremembering?
background of.
I don't.
thought the
I don't
second
like the
looked
fourth.
kind of similar to.
Oh,
to
no,
the,
yeah, no, I'm completely wrong. The cover does not have green. So I guess that was just a choice for the movie, but I think it works in the movie's favor, definitely, because it does look very similar to the first film in terms of, like, the shot selection and the framing choices and production design. But in terms of, like, the color choices and stuff, it definitely, you know, they add a little bit more in the shadows and that green kind of, not, like, Matrix level green, but they definitely add in some green to it, and which is a nice, you know, because the third one definitely has a very, very different look from the first two. But yeah, so I mean, in terms of positives, like I said, the basilisk scene is fantastic. I think the prosthetic not only holds up really well, I just think it's a very well directed, well paced action set piece. You know, from Harry running from the basilisk to Fawkes blinding it, and that sequence where Harry hides in the tunnels is very, it had me kind of on the edge of my seat. Very well directed, very well done, blocked, edited, everything. It's just very, very good. Music is great.
So do you have a problem with that a little bit? Like the snake has, like it still has its senses. It can't see, but it can smell, right?
I don't know. Maybe snakes can't smell. I don't know.
Well, because it knew enough to turn and go to Harry, so I assumed it smelled him.
Possibly.
But Harry throws the stone and it kind of like diverges its attention.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's kind of right when you're like an inch from him. I feel like you. I don't know. That's like a little.
It's a
that's
convenience.
Like a
It's
little
one.
thing of, like-
It's one that I guess doesn't bother me. But yeah, the whole sequence is great. I love Harry.
Yeah.
Again, doesn't use magic this time and just fights it with a sword, and it's fun. I don't know. It's a fantasy movie, so seeing my main character fight a giant serpent that looks amazing with a sword is fun. I like how he just fucking impales it through the head. It's great. It's very cool. I don't know. There's not too much to that. It just looks awesome. I also wrote down that I love when he stabs the book, the journal, Tom Riddle's journal. When he stabs it, it bleeds like black goo. I thought that was a cool and interesting choice, and enjoyed that. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate this
How
movie.
do you feel about the aftermath when he's in Dumbledore's office and Lucius comes in? Why do you feel about Lucius? You like him?
Lucius is great. I love Jason Isaac. I think he's a really talented actor. It's a fun character. You see where a lot of Draco gets his mannerisms fun. I had actually read that Jason Isaac, in preparation for the role, had rewatched the first Harry Potter film to kind of get a sense of what Draco was like and try to mimic that. So I thought that was pretty cool. Also read that it was Jason Isaac's decision to give the character long blonde hair instead of he was originally supposed to have hair similar to Draco, but I love the long hair. I love how he has the walking stick that he also uses as his wand. I do not like that he tries to kill Harry in the middle of the school.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Do you like that because you wanted murder in this movie? Do you like that he
no,
attempted?
I wanted
It doesn't make
the
sense
snake
because
to, but I don't think it makes sense to have Lucius try
it
to
doesn't.
kill Harry. Do you know why that happened?
why he tried to kill him?
So logistically why? Because there's a real world reason. They did not give him a spell to say in the script. They just told him to say something. This lends to a little bit of bad direction. But at the time, the fourth book had come out, and Jason Isaac had read all four books, and the fourth book is the first one to introduce the Avada Kedavra spell, which is the killing curse in the Harry Potter universe. And he had read that book, and Avada Kedavra was the only spell that he remembered reading. So when it came time to, direction and action, and the scene started, and it was like, oh, just say something, say a spell, all he could remember was Avada Kedavra. So that's why he
That's wild.
tries to kill Harry.
That's wild.
Wish somebody would have caught that one, but here we are. But yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's a little cheeky how Harry kind of manipulates Lucius into freeing Dobby, because you're told that a house elf can only be released from being owned if he is presented with clothing from his master. Lucius is his master. Harry hands him a book, which Lucius promptly gives to Dobby, and when Dobby opens it, there's a sock in it, freeing Dobby, and that's when Lucius tries to kill Harry. But overall, it's a fun scene. I enjoyed it. I like, I love Richard Harris as Dumbledore. He's my preferred Dumbledore, so I just like every scene he's in. He just has this presence and way of delivering speech that just, I don't know. I like him.
Yeah. No, yeah, no. He has that. There's like two versions of Dumbledore, even in the books. That like you get this twinkly kind of like mysterious guy, this like soft spoken, comforting guy that can also like just. I wish we got a little bit more from Richard Harris to see if he could match that intensity when he needed
Agreed.
to. So it's hard to say because I like him for what that half of Dumbledore that you get, but I like the later ones. I forget his name.
Michael Gambon.
Yeah, I also like him a lot. Like I like that he brings a little bit more of an edge to Dumbledore and like intimidating presence. This Dumbledore just doesn't have. He doesn't display the intensity as much. He has that one like yelling scene, I guess.
He doesn't, but that's why I think he works more for me as what we're told of Dumbledore as this immensely powerful, wise wizard.
Yeah,
who has
he definitely has the wisdom part. Like he definitely seems like the more wise.
But I think there's something to a character that feels more threatening and powerful when they're quiet and well kept. One of the best characters in Game of Thrones is Tyrion Lannister's father, Tywin Lannister, and he doesn't yell often, but he just has this very commanding, soft-spoken aura to him, and that's what I get with Richard Harris. And I don't dislike Michael Gambon. I think he's good in his scenes. When I think about like a really powerful, wise wizard, like the version that Richard Harris gives me is more what I'm imagining, and there's something to his quietness that in the scenes, like in the first one, when he does yell to quiet them down, that there is so much more power. Whereas I feel like Michael Gambon is always kind of in that mode.
We'll get into it. He had a bad silence. I forget if it was the third or the fourth one where Michael does the silence thing.
Yeah,
not as impactful as Richard Harris.
Not as good. But yeah, so I mean, I'm pretty much out of my thoughts on this movie. We didn't really talk about it, but I think as great as the effects are on Aragog, I think some of the CGI on the children's spiders looked a little dated, but that whole sequence is despite being illogical from a standpoint of why would Hagrid sent them, it's fun. It's scary. If you're not a fan of spiders, I recommend not watching that scene because it's pretty creepy. And I guess the actor who played Ron, Rupert Grint, he actually has a fear of spiders, so that scene was especially tough for him to film because giant prosthetic spider. But yeah, I wrote out a closing statement, which I will read because it covers my overall thoughts on this movie. I think I enjoy it a lot. There's a lot of fun to be had with it. But I think if you watch it in succession with the first one, like kind of back to back or within a short period of time, I watched one on one day and then watched Chamber of Secrets the following day. But the issue is that there's just too much fluff. It hits too many of the same beats as the first film. It's too long, and the mystery isn't that great. I think it's undercut by some dialogue early on in the film. It's got great special effects, but there's shorter films with better effects and a better, more concise story. And I don't know, the big reveal of Ginny being the one doing it doesn't land. She just has such a minimal presence in the movie, and unfortunately, plot details in the later movies do make some of this story not make much sense, but I'm trying not to hold that to this movie's, I don't completely blame this movie for later films, but that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, so, this movie is, I agree. It's in terms of like similarities to the first, I do think you have the same director. It's going to be similarly styled. I like the introduction to newer characters like Gilderoy. I like Lucius a lot. I think they do a good job with that. Unfortunately, some of the writing behind some of the characters doesn't make much sense to me. So, there's a good amount of those flaws in there. Minor flaws, but they're there. In terms of like plot choices, character choices from other people, doesn't really add up to me. For me, the thriller portion of this movie and mystery does land more for me than Jake does. I don't have a problem with some characters kind of divulging certain elements of the mystery, but not all of it. because it is indeed a mystery to them too of like the specifics. But production design is very equal to the first one, if not a little bit better in this one.
Better, I'd say.
Yeah, it's overall, yeah, I do like it a little better, but I find it very similar to the first one. So they're both very on par with each other, but yeah, just these two movies are so close for me. I've gone back and forth which one I like better. So I'm excited to give the rating since I know where Jake lands. But
one little fun tidbit about the second film, Chamber of Secrets, is that for the role of the young Tom Riddle, actor Eddie Redmayne went out for the role but did not get it, which is fun because he would later play Newt Scamander in the Fantastic Beasts prequel movies. And also, Hugh Grant went out for the role of Gilderoy Lockhart, which he did not get. As we said, Kenneth Branagh played the role, and pretty well, might I add. But also fun because Hugh Grant would go on to play young Dumbledore in the Fantastic Beasts movies. So they didn't get to be in the good Harry Potter movies, but they got to be in the bad ones. So unfortunate for them.
Hugh Grant was young Dumbledore?
Isn't that Hugh Grant?
In the Fantastic Beasts movies?
Am I thinking of Richard Grant?
Well, it's Jude Law.
Jude Law. That's what I meant. Jude Law. Jude Law went out for Gilderoy. Yeah.
Oh, I was about to say, I would have liked Hugh Grant as Gilderoy also.
That would have been fun. Or Jude Law would have been fun too. But yeah, no, Kenneth Branagh does a good job. But yeah, so I'm ready to get into scores for this set of films, I guess.
Which one do you want to score first?
I'll go first. I will take Harry Potter and the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer / Philosopher's Stone. I'm going to give this one a cool 7 out of 10. I didn't really give a recap for that one, but it's a movie that's very near and dear to my heart, and I think that's both a positive and a negative because it does hit me in the nostalgia feels for certain elements, especially the music. But ultimately, I think I may have seen this movie too many times in my life, and it's maybe run its course. It is one of my feel-good movies, so when I'm feeling really down, I will throw it on just because it does make me feel like a kid again in some aspects, but I can't deny some of the critical elements I have. I think I didn't mention it because we talked about the length a lot in the second one, but I also think the first film is a little bit too long, but it just uses the time a little bit better. But 2.5 hours is still a hefty runtime. And yeah, I think some of the childlike aspects hold it back a little bit from being a more engaging film overall, but I like the mystery, and 7 out of 10. It's a very well-made film. Production design, set design is great. Kids are a little stiff, but overall performance is A-okay. I like it. I like it a lot.
Awesome. I am going to clean, well, not really clean, but 7.1 is where I have this at.
7.1 out of 10. All right. Yep. Yeah, so I guess that leaves you to start us with Chamber of Secrets.
Like I said, these two movies are very close for me. I've gone back and forth. I got this one at a 7.2.
There's no way you like this movie better. Oh my god.
Sorry, Jake. I just think this one has overall slightly better components to the first one. Now, granted, my mind has changed many times. I have liked this film more. I have liked it less. And currently, at the moment, I like it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Not even like it more. Actually, I think I do like it more, but that's not that score is. That score is. I just think it is. I just think it's better. I think the kids are better overall. I think that helps it a lot. I think they're like significantly better in this.
Mm-hmm.
And you get added characters that are also equally as good. So everyone's always really good in this movie in terms of like the adult actors.
Oh yeah.
So. I don't know. I just think it just has slightly more layers than the first one, whereas there might be a little bit more plot holes. I find some minor.
Mm-hmm.
The first one isn't without plot holes either. So yeah, this one just gets slightly above.
All right. And I am going to give Chamber of Secrets a very generous 6 out of 10. I think...
I thought it was going to be higher. This guy acted like he liked it a lot when he texted me that he was fucking with me.
I am fucking with you. I like this movie. I feel like you were under the impression that I did joke about giving it a 5 out of 10. No, I think this is a 6 out of 10. I can't deny its merits, and even with adding in the fact that I think some of the scenes don't need to be in this movie. I can't deny that some of the scenes are better, even if I think the Quidditch scene in the first one serves more of a purpose. It does look noticeably better in the second movie. Still not very good, and not near as good as the third film, but yeah, for me, it's just, I think it's too long. What really brings this movie down, in my opinion, is it's too long, and it hits too many of the same beats as the first movie. I think the first one just feels a little more fresh, and you describe it as simpler, but to me, I think the simplicity definitely helps, because those plot holes do take me out of it quite a bit in the second one, where I shouldn't be questioning a lot of what's going on in the story. I would like to just enjoy it and absorb it, and I can do that more in the first one. So, yeah.
Very fair.
But
very fair, Jake.
Josh, before we close things out, got a little question for you.
Yeah.
How do you make a tissue dance?
You blow into it.
Nah, you put a little boogie in it.
Oh God,
that's a good one. That's a good one.
That's not bad.
I like that one. But yeah, guys, thank you again for listening. Yet again, for the 5th straight episode, we definitely ran too long, and I'll probably have to trim this down in editing. But I hope you guys enjoyed listening to us talk about the first 2 Harry Potter films. No real need for any big recommendation for our next episode. But we are going to be discussing Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix. So 3, 4, and 5 in the next episode. We'll try to be a little more concise with our discussions.
Honestly,
we'll have
pray
to be.
for us.
We'll have to be. Yeah, please, whatever God you have, pray to him that we get through it in a reasonable amount of time. But yeah, really, guys, we do appreciate you listening. I hope you guys are enjoying us breaking into all of these franchises. I know I haven't been the best about going into behind the scenes and trivia facts in the last couple episodes. But I would like to get back more into that as I did in the first Matrix movie. So hopefully I'll have a little more free time to check out some behind the scenes featurettes. And I did read a lot of trivia about Harry Potter, but a lot of it was not that fascinating. I feel like a lot of the fascinating and more interesting tidbits about the franchise, at least in the first 2 films, has already been talked about at length. It's a very well thoroughly talked about subject. But yeah, guys, if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, you are probably on my former film student YouTube channel, where you can listen to me talk about some movie and TV related topics. I do video essays, reviews, as well as just some videos that just cover my love for certain genres or films. I want to get back into doing a series of recommending movies, like foreign films, art house films, so people can definitely check me out over there. Listen to this podcast here on this channel, Former Film Student, as well as over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. But that's it for me.
Yeah, and again, guys, give us a follow on Instagram. We're at Franchise Deep Dive. And, if you ever have any recommendations, just DM us or send us an email. We're at franchisedeepdive@gmail.com. So reach us there, give us a follow for more content. Excited to get into 3, 4, and 5 for Harry Potter. Have no idea how we're going to consolidate into
we can do
appropriate
it.
time frame.
Can do it. I'm going to spend the most time absolutely glazing Prisoner of Azkaban. So, yeah. I love that movie.
Same. I'm with you.
Yeah, dude, I'm very excited to talk about that one. And yeah, 4 and 5 as well. I have a lot of thoughts on both of those movies. But yeah, guys, thank you, like I said, for listening. Throw us on whenever you have some free time. Listen to us babble on about these movie franchises as we delve deeper and deeper into the roots and heart of Harry Potter, as well as other of your least favorite and favorite movie franchises. And that's really it for today. Goodbye.
Peace out, guys.